Good evening, everybody. All right, we're going to have to get Public Works to bring it down. As Public Works guys, usually it's the cops, it's the Public Works guys this time. I just want to welcome everybody. This is our presentation period. This is the time that we give presentations to our community, and we have our Chief Henson and our Deputy Chief Shaw. They're going to come up here and start with some presentations that are pretty awesome.
Good afternoon or evening. Today we don't have anybody being hired, but we have two life-saving awards we'd like to give out. If I could have Officer Toscano and Officer Perez come on up. Just stay right behind me. And then you guys are both going to want to talk, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to first start off with Officer Toscano. On November 21st, 2022, at 2:44 p.m., patrol officers were dispatched to the 13,000 block of Mountaintop Court on a child drowning. Officer Toscano arrived and observed a 2-year-old child who had fallen into the pool. The child appeared to be lifeless. Officer Toscano began life-saving measures and after a minute determined the child had a pulse. The child then began to have shallow breathing and coughing up water, but the child was still unresponsive. Medical personnel arrived and the child was transported to DRMC. A week later, the department received an email that the child had made a full recovery. It's not punishment.
Thank you. This is my job, and I'm happy to do it. I love the department I work for, and yeah, that's it.
No, you get to stay up here. You get to stay up here. You can tell she's not shy. Okay, next to be Officer Perez, or Detective Perez. On June 15th, 2022, and I know these are 2 years old, we're kind of slow at the police department, but at 6:33 p.m., officers were dispatched to the alleyway behind 13100 block of Palm Drive regarding a subject who was unconscious. Officer Perez responded and located the subject who was laying down, not breathing. Officer Perez began CPR for approximately 90 seconds. While doing so, he noticed drug paraphernalia near the subject. Officer Perez, believing the subject was possibly having a fentanyl overdose, administered Narcan. Once Narcan was administered, Officer Perez then resumed CPR. The subject then began to have spontaneous and shallow respirations. AMR personnel transported him to the hospital where the subject eventually made a full recovery. This you should be used to.
Yeah, from my city. This story's kind of funny. 2018, the same subject that I recovered is actually the reason why I'm still here. Two years prior, we got into a fight with him on New Year's Eve, and he dislocated my shoulder. When he dislocated my shoulder, it put me out for work. My wife, who's in the audience today, before I was able to come back to work, forced me to go to the doctors and came with me to the doctors to find out that I had severe heart issues. And had it not been for getting into an altercation to going to the doctors, he actually saved my life. So when I realized that he was the one, I opened up the door and thanked him. So it's a full circle.
We'd now like to invite up Assemblyman Greg Wallace's office. His representative Felipe will be here. He has a presentation also.
And you're not shy.
Well, sometimes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Felipe Ortiz, and I work for Assemblymember Greg Wallace. Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. So I have 2 certificates of recognition for Detective Adam Perez and Officer Toscano that I would like to read. On behalf of the California State Assembly and the constituents of the 47th Assembly District, it is my pleasure to recognize Officer Paulina Toscano and Detective Adam Perez for receiving the Desert Hot Springs Police Department Life Saving Award. Your dedication, courage, and unwavering commitment to the safety and well-being of our community exemplify the highest standards of the Desert Hot Springs Police Department. The commitment and bravery you have demonstrated have not gone unnoticed, and it is with deep gratitude and utmost respect that we present you with this Life Savings Award. May your actions continue to inspire and remind us all of the profound impact and one individual can make in the service of others. Thank you and congratulations.
Then we get you back up here. Get you guys back up here with the whole city council chiefs. Everybody in?
Could I have the, there you go. Just to kind of even things out a little bit, there we go. Perfect. Very nice.
Then afterwards, we have one more presentation. If you guys want to bring family up afterwards, we'll have some time. And now we're going to talk about Public Works. So Nick Haker, where's he at? There he is. He blended in over there. Nick's going to talk about, it's Public Works Week, right?
Right? Not enough. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and staff. Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, Tom Brady, Desert Hot Springs Public Works Department. It is no surprise that the Desert Hot Springs Public Works Department is synonymous with greatness. This year alone, our engineering department completed 9 CIP projects in addition to the 5 FHWA emergency road repair projects. Right when we said, engineering department, you need to slow down. That's way too much for just 3 of you. You know what these guys did? They reviewed and are finalizing plans for 5 more CIP projects, issued a grading permit for the 6th largest company on earth. Oh, and while we were at it, let's start building a brand new fire station at the end of this month. That's what the great ones do. Mamba mentality. Kobe Bryant once described Desert Hot Springs Public Works Department as doing more than the next guy and then trusting in the work you've put in when it's time to perform. Our M&O department is more than just good looks and snappy dressers. The precision of their painting strokes of road markings and red curbs is only bested by Picasso's blue period. Late nights, early mornings, high winds, massive storms, and hot days are the times you will not see me in the streets, but you will see our M&O department making our parks, facilities, and roads safer. Heroes, is that what I just heard? No, I lost my spot. I don't know what you would call a group of people who answer phone calls at all hours of the night to respond to emergencies like Tropical Storm Hillary or traffic accidents. Like the great Sugar Free and DJ Quick said, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. That's greatness. Good job, guys. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. This is how our administration department attacks our budget. Takes on all challenges it may give us. Our administration finds ways to get the job done. Filing FEMA reports, round 1 knockout. Contract and environmental compliance, TKO. Hazard mitigation, and still reigning, defending, undisputed champions of the world, Desert Hot Springs Public Works Department. All joking aside, it's been a long year full of challenges and obstacles, but we overcame and delivered greatness. If I could quote one more GOAT from the GOAT of all colleges, 2022 Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams from the University of Southern California, fight on. All great stories have one thing in common, of overcoming adversity. Public Works is writing greatness. Good job, guys. This proclamation is a reminder to all that our Public Works Department stands shoulder to shoulder with all of the GOATs. Congratulations, guys. Yeah, everyone come on up.
Anyone that works in Public Works, come on up. So Nick dummied that down for me because I don't get government talk all the time, so he talks sports talk. So I totally got that. When you get these guys, the ones that work out in the field in an air conditioning building, they always come. So we have a proclamation we're going to deliver for the National Public Works Week. It's whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to substance and resident. I'm going to fumble through this. Yeah, communities and to the public health, high quality of life and well-being of the people of the city of Desert Hot Springs, and whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and the children of the Desert Hot Springs to gain knowledge of maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and the public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Scott Mattis, do hereby designate the week of May 19th through 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designated to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, and managers and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protect our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. This is National Public Works Week. Thank you for each and every one of you for what you do for us. Our parks are clean, our streets are clean, and all those little things that you don't see and you want your city to look like, these individuals make that happen, from the desk, from answering phones to getting out there and cleaning our parks. So let's give them a big hand. And you get a picture? Council wants to stand up.
All right, on the count of three, Public Works. 1, 2, 3.
Public Works.
Wait, they're not there. Were they there?
Oh, wait.
Wait.
Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, turn around one more time.
One more time.
All right, we're going to take a short recess and we'll come back at 6 o'clock for the regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All ready, Gerald? All right. We are going to call the meeting to order for the City of Desert Hot Springs regular meeting of the City Council, and the City Council serving as the successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board for Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. This is our 6 p.m. regular session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner.
Present.
Councilmember Nunez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pai.
Present.
And Mayor Mattis.
Present. Invocation tonight will be by Mayor Pro Tem Jan Pai, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Gary Gardner.
These are certain quotes. What you see is what you get. The quality of our lives is not measured by the amount of time we spend in a state of perfection. Emily Nagoski, loving our bodies, radical self-love demands that we see ourselves and others in the fullness of our complexities. Sonia Renee Taylor. And the last one, resistance is futile. Our whole life is set up in the path of least resistance. We don't want to suffer. We don't want to feel discomfort. So the whole time we're living our lives in a very comfortable area. There is no growth in that. David Guggens.
Place your hand over your heart, face the flag, and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our next item, we had no closed session, there's no reportable action. We're going to go to the approval of the agenda. Before we do that, I do have a speaker on item number 15 on the consent calendar. So before we take a motion to approve the agenda and consent calendar, item number 15 is the mayor's appointments to various intergovernmental and regional boards and committees, Coachella Valley Animal Campus Commission. Mr. Anderson. Push the button in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Rancho Mirage. I just want to come up for this item and a few others, and I forgot how you do things, so I'm glad I got here early to fill out that speaker card. But this is concerning an appointment to the Coachella Valley Animal Campus, Coachella Valley. I know the Desert Hot Springs seat has been empty for a long time on that council, on that commission, and I know I've been involved in this issue for a long time, and I know when you did your own shelter and stuff, and you kind of pulled back from that commission because of that. But your presence there is very much appreciated. I hope that Mr. Gardner is up to the task, and I hope this is a good appointment for him, and I hope he serves his community well. Thank you.
On the consent calendar, is anybody else would like to speak on the consent calendar? Any items on the consent calendar? And that would be items number... pages there, number 10 through 16, 18. I see nobody coming forth. I'll entertain a motion of the City Council to approve the agenda and consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, so moved. Mr. Mayor, pulling items 12, 14, and 16 from consent.
And are there questions or the
No.
actual items that need to be discussed?
Discussion.
Which ones?
12, 14, and 16.
And I'm assuming during your vote, you'll be recusing yourself from the first item on the consent
Question
calendar.
on number 10, yes. Is that,
Citywide, as it always is. It's on consent 'cause it's general information. It's just a routine item. You just have to recuse yourself and state your recusal on item 10.
Okay.
That you'll be abstaining.
District 1, I see I see on the map that was provided, LMD 1 and District 1. Is this citywide, or is this only in that section?
I'll answer the question one more time. It's citywide. The other ones are
So
on,
then
the
there's
other
no
ones
need
are on
to
the regular
recuse.
administrative, or the hearing.
So if it's citywide, there's no need to recuse?
We've offered that to you, but you have in the past. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Okay, for the purposes, I don't know what it is, I'll recuse. I'm trying to get sorted from staff where this is on the map that was presented.
It's citywide. You've always taken the caution to recuse
Citywide
yourself.
would be the blue section. And
You've taken caution because of your business
I
downtown.
appreciate your concern, but is it this section marked on the map in yellow, or is it the area outlined in blue?
It's citywide.
Okay, then I don't need to recuse, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Gary, you were going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And your motion is to pull items 12, 14, and 16?
Pull those and approve the agenda.
And I'll second.
All right. Motion is second. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. We're going to move to public comments. At this time, pursuant to the Brown Act, any person may comment on matters of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council not listed on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the City Council shall not take action on and discuss matters raised during public comment portion of the agenda that are not listed on the agenda. All comments are to be directed to the City Council and shall be devoid of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain professional, courteous decorum during public comments. This is an opportunity if you're here and you want to speak in public comments on items not on the agenda. There's a blue card back there. Our city clerk will wave his hand right there and you can hand him a card and he'll get it to me. Any other items on the agenda, you'll be called at that time. You don't need to fill out a blue card. Our first speaker today is Mr. Elliot Griffin.
Hello and good evening. How's it going? My name's Elliot Lou Griffin. I live in the city of Desert Hot Springs. I'm here to talk about the police issue again. This is going on 5 months now that we haven't had this on the agenda. And I think failure to have this on the agenda is what they call dereliction of duty. And I'm going to throw that out there. That, you know what, if we look at the last video that we all saw with the young man that got beat up out there with 4, 5, 6 cops beating him up. If you look at the video, I want to say this clearly. They all went to arrest the guy. They all went to handcuff him. Look at the video and show me what officer had handcuffs in his hand. Think about it. I'm going to arrest this guy. Why I don't have handcuffs in my hand going to arrest him? No. You see, and not one officer just steps up and try to arrest this guy. You know, 2 of them turn around, they spin him around and try to dump him on his head. Do you see the difference? They didn't step up and try to, oh, I'm going to handcuff this guy, I'm going to step up, handcuff this guy. No. They grabbed the guy, spin him around, and everybody's seen the video. Grabbed the guy, spin him around, and tried to dump him on his head. Now, and you see the guy stumble, turn around, 2 officers, you see him stumble, going to the ground. Now, that's assault with the ground. Had I let it, and honestly, if 2 people handling me and I hit that ground with my head, what's going to happen? That's assault to the ground. Now, we talk about the police and how they're not good people. Let's talk about that. Who else has to wear cameras in the community at work? Who else has to wear cameras at the community at work? Nobody else on the planet has to wear cameras, but the police officers do. Do you see where we're at? Some of them are good people. I'm not against the police. Let's stop right here. Let's stop and say this. I'm not against the police department at all. I'm saying that this has to stop. They beat up 40 people in the community already. We have a motorcycle cop now that he parks in illegal spots and he speeds to go catch the people. I mean, I'm willing to get him on camera for you guys. Can you tell the police, the motorcycle cop, to stop parking in illegal parking spots, please? He's going to park
Mr. Griffith, direct your comments to the City Council only, please.
He's parking in illegal spots, and then how am I going to pull over a person for doing something I say that's illegal if I'm doing something that's illegal? Do you see where we're at? And if we look at that video again, and this is all I want to refer back to because my time is running out. Can we please, and I don't know how we're going to talk about it or how we're going to try to come up with a solution for this, but if we could please come up with a solution to stop this, you know. Who wants to see, that's crookedness. Who wants to see a cop that wants to pull you over and he's sitting there doing something illegal? Who else has to wear cameras? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr.
Please have it
Griffith.
on the camera.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson?
Hello again, Brad Anderson, currently live in the city of Mirage. Again, I just wanted to come up, speak about item 1 and 2, but I will hit public comment while I'm here. And I didn't even know that there was an issue here concerning the police and its citizens, so I have to look into that now. So anyway, I just want to let you know, today's not city council meeting, but the Board of Supervisors meeting voted to increase their wages by roughly $36,000. So, and I know the Palm Springs Cemetery District just recently voted to raise their per meeting rate to $265, I believe. I think that's excessive. I think with the, anyway, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention while I'm here, because I think that's really important that we look at this and look at all the cities and especially special districts that go kind of under the radar, and maybe pay a little more attention to what's going on in the valley and in the county. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Juanita Clifton?
Yes, my name's Juanita Clifton, and I'm here to advocate regarding the Desert Hot Springs Senior Center. And I know that it's taking some new planning, and they have different things arranged that they're gonna change. I have a paper here from 24 of the members of the Desert Hot Springs Senior Center, and they were unable to come today, but it says people who want the same staff and to keep our guard. And in your planning, we're hoping that you can keep our staff, because I've been here 11 years, I've been going there. They're like a family members. When I had a medical issue, they helped me. I could trust any of them with my purse, that anything in my purse would be given back to me during an emergency. And I just want to thank you that we have a Desert Hot Springs Senior Center. The guard that's recently been hired, we're very concerned if he's not going, if we don't have a guard, because we're there. And if, let's say Frank has stepped out, or he had an appointment or something, and an emergency happens at the center, are one of us supposed to handle it? I'm almost 70 years old. Like, it would be kind of hard for me to handle a situation. We had just this week have somebody come in, they sit down, refused to leave, and they were a young person that had mental problems. He was able to get them out of our center safely, and we felt safe in the way he even managed it was very professional. So I just wanted to say that we would like for you to consider keeping our staff that we have, because they're all very good and they help us so much. And also, please, if you consider in your planning to keep our guard, or a guard, we'd like, this guy is very nice and good, professional, and he's very kind to all of the seniors. That means a lot to us, okay? Thank you so much for the time.
Appreciate your time. Tammy Coughlin?
Hello, everyone. My name is Tammy Coughlin, and I'm a local resident of DHS for 4 years now, and I'm also a proud employee of the Senior Center. Just about a year. I'm almost have my year in. And I'm part of a great team who support our seniors with anything they need. We're full of resources, and we provide a loaded calendar of activities, things that really stimulate our seniors, things that get them to come in. When they're at home, they're depressed, they're sad, they're lonely, they don't have family nearby. So I'm very proud to work there. And basically, I just wanted to come up here and tell you all that I'm really excited to have the city keep us in-house. And I'm really looking forward to the future possibilities for the center and our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Robles? Maria Robles?
Well, hi, everyone. My name is Maria Robles, and I am a member of the Senior Center, and I've been in Desert Hot Springs for 20 years. My only concern, well, other than the guard, is that the Senior Center at least put the cameras all around, because the other day, some time ago, I had a problem with somebody, and with an employee of the Senior Center. She attacked me, and I'm a member of the senior, and I told everybody nothing was done, and then when they talked to this lady, she put everything that I did, what she did, that I did it. And with the cameras, you can tell, who does things. And the cameras, they don't like. So that's, yes, you put some cameras there. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Larry Baldwin? I was going to wait till you sat down and then called you. Sorry about that.
My name is Larry Baldwin. I'm a member of DHS Meza Center. This is the first time speaking in front of a city people. Desert Hot Springs. You already had two people. Oh, I know you. I've been a member of Meza DHS for about 15 years. This is odd because we always thought that DHS was going to be there. We didn't realize the problems from Meza, and we like our staff, even though they're new. They keep us well informed. We realize that the city is taking over, County of Riverside. You want to make money. That's understandable. I'm a certified medical technician. We try to keep our people in-house because most of them got one foot in, dragging the other one behind them. And even though the fire department and police station is next door, but we need that medical attention right there, you know, and they do the best they can. But we are a family. We're not like Meza. We're a family. If they need something, we're there for them. I'm the greeter. You know, if somebody comes in there or somebody drops their parents off or grandparents, I'm usually able to greet them because I speak 4 different languages. Not fluently, but enough to make them feel comfortable. Tammy, Martha, Emma, and our new director, Frank. They take care of business. I don't know how you feel about it because I don't think any of you is seniors. You know, no, they don't look like none of the seniors. You know, they all look young. We have our DHS Police Department right next door to us, and they do come in and make sure that we're well taken care of. But when we heard that you were going to take over, that left us in a conundrum. The city inspectors came over there and said we had to close our kitchen because we had a crack in the wall. Well, we've had a crack in that wall for the last 15 years, but they closed our kitchen down. So what are we going to do? You know, our birthday parties, celebrations, Cinco de Mayo, Halloween. This is what we do.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Your 3 minutes are up. And
I only had 3 minutes.
You only had 3 minutes, and
well, you didn't tell me that.
We can't respond to you. We can't respond to you, but if you stick around for council comments, there might be some response.
Oh, so you have questions to answer me?
We do not. We cannot respond to you. This is your free time per the state of California's laws. So I have to ask you to sit back down at this time, but if you stick around for city council comments, we might comment on your comments.
Oh.
I have to call my next speaker up. Thank you very much. Brian Brodowski, and this is the last card that I have. If anybody would like to speak in public comments, you can fill out a blue card, give it to the clerk.
Good evening. My name is Brian Brodowski, and I'm here speaking on behalf of Diversity DHS. I want to mention that the LGBTQ plus candidate forum will be next week, 6 p.m., Wednesday, May 29, 2024. We invite people of all persuasions to come and meet Will Rollins, Lisa Middleton, Ron Oden, and Christy Halstage with your questions, followed by a get-together at playoffs afterward in the evening. We still meet every second Sunday of the month at Dillings for a tea social. We have speakers throughout the year with interests for LGBT members and their supporters. We're doing a bowling fundraiser Friday, June 28th at the Palm Springs Lanes. This fall, we hope to put together a pickleball charity event We look forward to putting together another town hall with the police department, mayor, and city staff. Our new vision for our diversity DHS is a commitment to service, community service, and a long-term range plan for a brick and mortar space. Now I'll put my other cap on as diversity, as Desert Hot Springs Rotary President. I want to invite those who haven't already signed up to come to our wonderful event Thursday, Big Heart Awards. Most of you will be there, and it'll be a great, nice event. Tickets are still available. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. That was my last speaker card. Did anyone not fill out a speaker card would like to speak in public comments on non-agendized items? All right, we're going to close public comments this time. We'll go to city manager's report.
No updates, Mr. Mayor.
Go to mayor and council members' reports. Mr. Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Run down the meetings I attended the CVAG Energy and Sustainability. That's Coachella Valley Association of Governments. Not a lot took place there. It was a very, very light agenda. Attended a Coachella Valley Cannabis Alliance Network gathering up at the Miracle Springs, which was focused on canna tourism. I had another event I had to be at, so I didn't get to catch all of that, but I understand it was a good event. Mr. Mayor, you spoke there. Attended the California Cities Riverside County Division meeting, which is basically a meeting of all Riverside County cities associated through what used to be called the League of California Cities, is now called Cal Cities. And it was a presentation on the signal synchronization of the traffic lights. Had the opportunity to stop in at the Vietnam Moving Wall. I hope a lot of people attended that. It was very nice to see that come to our city. I wasn't able to attend the opening ceremony. Mr. Mayor, how was that?
I'll report on it.
What was it? Okay, there was a lot of people there?
I'll report on it.
Yeah, okay, good, all right. So I understand it was very nice. I had another event that I had to be at, which was the scholarship presentation to the high school seniors. Wow, was that an event? The scholarship awards were for Desert Hot Springs graduating seniors that were going on to continuing education. There were all kinds of clubs and organizations that came forward to provide scholarships. The number of organizations coming was overwhelming. I couldn't possibly list them all. I would have had to take a long, long list, and even reading them off now would take a long time. The event lasted over 2 hours, with just a continuous stream of students getting scholarship awards, and they weren't small amounts. These clubs and groups and organizations raised tens of thousands of dollars to give our scholarships to our students. Some of the scholarship awards were as high as $2,500, and multiple scholarships going out. We got some very, very bright kids in this community, and it was really, really nice to see that event. Keeping it short tonight, the last thing on my list is we have a local MMA fighter, mixed martial arts fighter, who grew up in our city and has come up through the organizations here, Iran Orozco, and she just won the King of the Cage bout in Reno, Nevada. It was the only female match on the card that night, and she got a TKO in 1 minute and 32 seconds. If you remember, she was part of the group that went overseas. I can't remember what country it was, and competed and all came back with quite a few championship awards. So very happy to see that and congratulate her on her job going forward. Other than that, just usual meetings with residents throughout the week. If you ever have any concerns, you're certainly welcome to reach me, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As many of you know, my reading glasses permanently live on the top of my head, and I have left them home tonight, so I'm going to try to struggle through this as best I can, and hopefully you'll forgive me for any mispronounced names or anything. I wanted to thank Mr. Baldwin for assuming I was not a senior citizen. Well, that was very nice of you. So, a couple of 3 or 4 meetings here. Coachella Valley Mosquito Vector Control District. We have detected West Nile virus in the far east end of the valley and a number of mosquitoes. No human cases, and hopefully we won't have any. But remember to wear your mosquito repellent. Make sure you don't have any standing water, which will give breeding grounds for mosquitoes. We do get a lot of wind here, which kind of blows them away, but we do have mosquitoes out here, so be very careful out there. I wanted to give a quick shout out to our fire department. We had 2 brush fires in the last couple of days in the middle of our high winds, which thankfully today kind of died down, and that's rather scary. They tackled them very quickly, got them under control, kept them from spreading to homes despite the high winds. So thanks to the department, and remember to be careful out there in the desert. Your muffler can start a fire with some of the dried brush out there. Attended the Do the Right Thing Foundation Awards in Palm Springs this last week. This is a program we've all of us here on the council have attended a few times, and it's put on by a nonprofit group there in conjunction with the Palm Springs Police Department to give recognition and awards to youngsters through high school who do the right thing. And it's usually a really good program, but this time around they gave out scholarships, and that was always very special, and I was honored to help them award scholarships to 3 students from Desert Hot Springs High: Carlos Alvarez, Marcos Robles Gutierrez, and Uriel Ricio, as well as 2 students from Wenslaff, Maria Madalena Lopez and Riley Zamaliska, and 4 from Mount San Jacinto High School, which is also at Wenslaff: Jesus Villarreal, Evelyn Sanchez, and Arlene Armandez, and Natalie Bermudez Tamaya. So congratulations to all of them. Attended the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, because the commission is already more than halfway through our goal of purchasing and conserving lands throughout the valley. We're now really starting to take some serious discussions on both what to do with the conserved land and how do we maintain them in the future. So I'm glad to see that coming along. Along with Council Member Pye and Public Safety Commissioner Martin Mitchell, we attended the Harvey Milk Diversity Breakfast in Palm Springs. It was a great program, and DHS, one of the cities that provided a resolution honoring the day. The Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy met. Our board approved the search committee's recommendation for a brand new executive director. Our longtime executive director, Jim Karpiak, is retiring, and they voted to hire Elizabeth King, who comes from a similar conservancy up in the Sacramento area. And Jim's retiring after 11 years of great leadership of that organization. And lastly, the Cal Cities Riverside County Division meeting in Indian Wells, along with Ms. Pye and Mr. Betts and our city manager. We got a great update on the CV Sync traffic light program, which we should be seeing soon here along Palm. They've been digging up the road and laying the cable for it. Interestingly, I got a taste of how well CV Sync is actually working in the areas where it is there. Mayor Linda Evans from La Quinta and I both left the Harvey Milk Breakfast at the exact same time. We'd actually parked right close to each other to head to the CVCC meeting. She took Highway 111, which is CV synced, and she beat me by 15 minutes because I took Dinah Shore, which has fewer lights, but they're not synced. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that project helps traffic along Palm Drive.
She drives really fast, by the way.
And so do I, but there you go. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Pye?
Mr. Baldwin, I am going to thank you because I am a senior center. I'm senior. But I appreciate your compliment. And the contract is not over until June. And it is under the auspices of the city manager. Going on Reflection Park, it was given to the council, and we did approve it, and we did have it come to the council several times, and we did see renderings. Regarding thank you for visiting, this is my opinion. When we see thank you for visiting, that is true because people do visit Desert Hot Springs. They visit our spas. They visit Cabot. Cabot refers them to the Historical Society and vice versa. Because of Hillary, a lot of people had to come down Mission Lakes. And a lot of people come down Mission Lakes to go to the dispensaries right there. Also, a lot of had to go down Pearson, which means they went to certain of our restaurants. So we are telling people thank you for visiting. Ophelia girls did meet here last week. It was very good. I spoke to, I'm not going to do that, the principal of Desert Hot Springs High School, and I spoke to the superintendent of Palm Springs Cemetery School District, and he was very interested in what we did, and he asked for pictures, and he gave us compliments. And Roberta Signet, Christina Felipe, Candace, can't think of her last name right now, and Randall Ray and myself, we all had the situation here. And Officer Toscano, yes, she is shy, but she did talk to the students, and we had several people speak to the students, and they were very grateful, and the superintendent sent us a complimentary letter saying that he was really glad that we did it. We also would Ophelia need mentorship for Painted Hills as well. So anyone that's interested in Painted Hills, please let me know. And also, Councilmember Betts, you didn't state that Desert Hot Springs gave your grandson a scholarship. That's all.
Mr. Nidias.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I have, this past Saturday, we had the honor of being here at City Hall to donate food to local residents. So I know both of us showed up, so I won't share all the gory details for myself. So we had 400 residents come out, which is great. I stayed for the whole event, and I can tell you my arms were sore by the end of the day because they had so much different canned foods. People were coming in shopping carts. We were just loading up shopping carts. So I was really sore at the end of the day, but it was a good turnout, and they're looking to do more here in the community. So with that, I'll leave the rest for you, sir.
Thank you, and I will try to be as brief as I can, but I did have a busy couple weeks. Riverside County Transportation Commission met, and they opened the process for their budgeting, which they do each year, and they started in May. They open the public hearing, leave it open for a month. It's a $1.12 billion budget here in Riverside County. Every city has a seat on the Riverside County Transportation Commission. All the money that funnels down from the federal government and state, the taxes that you pay for roads, all go to the commission, and all the cities, including all 5 supervisors, have a seat to make decisions on the future. A lot of projects, $1.12 billion in road projects. That's not even close to enough to do what we need to do to the highways and our freeways here in the Riverside County. But the reason I brought that up is something to think about in our 2-year budget process. Is I think it's a good process to maybe have the public be a little more transparent with the public, is leaving our public hearing open for a couple weeks extra. So maybe something to think about in the calendar for next year when you get ready for the 2-year budget cycle. A ballot measure in the fall is possible through Riverside County Transportation. They are looking at a sales tax increase to help put build more roads and then repair more highways. And then there was a huge discussion. So they did the meeting locally, being the Coachella Valley this time. We usually meet in the Riverside County at the supervisors' chambers there. It seats all 35 board members. But this meeting, they did a satellite location, which was Palm Desert, and they squeezed us all into the CVAG chambers, and it was pretty tight. But there was a really rambunctious discussion on remote locations or satellite locations for future meetings, meaning that they're trying to get more individuals in the county involved in transportation. So they're going to come back with a model that will possibly give you an opportunity, if you don't want to travel to Riverside to go to a transportation meeting, you could possibly just have to travel somewhere here in the Coachella Valley. So I'll keep you posted on that. I wanted to also notify everybody that the Assemblyman Wallace's office, earlier we had presentations to two police officers for life-saving activities that they did, given from our police chief to the police officers. And Assemblyman Wallace's office, his representative Felipe Ortiz was here. And he holds once a month office hours for you. So if you have state concerns, you can go directly to the Assemblyman's office here at City Hall. You can check the calendar and see when he's here, and you can come visit him, set up an appointment. CV Canada, as mentioned by Mr. Betts, had a Canada tourism, wasn't a workshop, it was like a, what am I missing the words here, symposium? Yeah. So it was Visit Greater Palm Springs and CV Can joined together with Brian Applegarth. It's Brian Applegarth Consulting. I want to make sure I got his business right. He's a fantastic speaker on cannabis issues. And I was able to do the welcome on behalf of the city and welcome everybody to the event. And then they really got into the details of what Canada tourism should look like, or can look like in the future. And the reason I'm talking a little bit more about it than just the welcome is when I became mayor in 2015, one of the first events I went to in early 2016 was talking about things about your city and throughout the Coachella Valley. And when I left the stage, there was people just like, oh my gosh, you can't talk cannabis. Don't talk to me about cannabis. How could you? And now, you know, years and years later, 8 years later, they're finally coming to the table understanding the implications from what these tax revenues can do for communities. So it's a really interesting conversation. I want to thank all our hardworking staff and volunteers. Our local veteran, Eddie Johnson, isn't here tonight, and our VFW chapter isn't here tonight, but they put a lot of efforts in working with Roberta Cernick back there. Wave your hand. She put in a lot of effort in making sure the Vietnam moving wall came to our city for 4 days. It was a great event. We had, I think there was 50 or 60 people out for the opening. It's crazy how you schedule something, you think, oh, when your calendar 6 months in advance, there's nothing going on that day, and all of a sudden there was like 6 events that day. So, but I heard there was hundreds of people that came through, maybe even thousands that came through to look at the wall, and it's just a moving thing. In 2009 or 10, somewhere in there, Eddie had brought the idea to me as a city council member, and we were able to work together to bring it to our local high school. And then after that, the city brought it back in 2000, I'm going to mess up the dates, 13, 14, 16, somewhere in there. Brought it back to our Mission Springs Park, and then again. So 3 times we've had the moving wall here in Desert Hot Springs, and it's very humbling to see how many people gave their lives. Over 58,000 individuals gave their lives in Vietnam. Americans gave their lives. Bella Vista cleanup. So our cleanup committee, Councilmember Nunez and I represent the community. We've revamped the program a little bit, working with Desert Valley Disposal. And I see Liz and Chris out there. Wave your hand. They're here for other issues tonight, but Liz is awesome. She brought her crew, and they go into the school, and I'm able to do a welcome with the elementary school kids. We did 2 sessions, and then she goes on for about 15, 20 minutes on where you should put your trash. And this is one of our biggest issues in our community is people like to dump trash where they shouldn't dump it. And then we pay these guys to go out and clean it up or they give, a lot of times they give it to us for free, go out and pick it up. But you don't have to put it in your desert. You can put it next to your curb. You can put it in the right bin to help the city not get fines. So we're required to recycle correctly, or put your organic waste in the proper bin, and then put your trash in the proper bin. And if you do so, then the city can be clean. And so we thought if we went to the school, starting at elementary school level, teach the kids how to do it properly, they'll go home and hopefully tell their parents and family members where to put the trash correctly. The great part about the new program that we revamped is we used to do the program in the school and then have them volunteer on a Saturday to come clean up their campus. And kids on the weekend, you get 5 of them. But right now we're doing, so Brian Brodowski, wave your hand out there, he's been volunteering with us also from Rotary, and we handed out bags and gloves, and every kid in the class went out and picked up trash on their playground and around their school, and they were excited to do so. It was awesome. It was a great experience, and hopefully they got something out of it. As Councilmember Nunez alluded to, the food distribution this weekend. So we were notified by a local radio station, La Grande 100.9, that they were going to partner with Journey of Life and Hope out of Los Angeles. Journey of Life and Hope has been coming to the Coachella Valley once a month for almost a year now, I think she said. And they've been picking a city, and they've been distributing food for free. And so they put it out there. What Mr. Nunez was alluding to is there was gallons of milk, there was canned goods, there was like 6 or 7 pallets of food, and they served 400 families or 400 individuals through that line. So it was a pretty awesome experience, and we partner with a lot of different organizations like this to bring those needs to our community, and can be more grateful for what they did. So I wanted to thank them. I announced a month or so ago that Colleen Farber, a longtime resident and realtor here in town, Rotarian, really just a great person, had passed away. And they're having a celebration of life for her at Vista, Montana at 11:30 a.m. Jessica Gilbert, who's been a longtime member of our community, just moved away recently, will be coming back into town, and she says, if you have any questions about that, she'd be happy to answer them. Anyone's welcome.
When is that?
11:30 on Saturday, the May 25th. There was some discussion on the event tomorrow, which is the ribbon cutting for, not really a ribbon cutting, it's more of a dedication of our new streets. And there was recently some discussion on social media about this costing the city something. It doesn't cost the city anything. Our Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce is coming out to help us with the event. What we're trying to do is bring awareness to the fact that our staff did a fantastic job. Just under $10 million in repairs done to roadways that, if they hadn't advocated correctly, if they hadn't crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's with the federal government would have pulled that money back and not reimbursed the city almost $10 million in fees. This is an opportunity, if you want, at noon tomorrow, to come to the crossing at Indian, on Indian, between Pearson and Mission Lakes Boulevard. And you can park on the side of the road, be safe, and actually get a walk to see what this project has done for our community. Indian Canyon and Dillon Road will have been reconstructed in a way that's functional, as the federal government had stated, but in a way that it's going to help that water flow better. The wildlife will be able to transport under the roadway easier. Someday, hopefully, we can build a bridge there, but this is going to help in 90% of our storms in the future going forward. That's my opinion. That's not scientific. Little Morongo, we had a little more difficult on getting them to build it higher like we wanted them to, but I just wanted to, again, thank our staff for this. It's an opportunity for the public to come out and see these projects and see what was done. This is pretty much not costing the city anything. There's a little bit of fees that we've had to pay, for the most part, to get reimbursed, which is a great opportunity for Desert Hot Springs. We also, next week, will break ground on our third fire station here in Desert Hot Springs on Hacienda and Long Canyon on May 30th. I'm really excited about that. As most of you know, fire is really close to my heart, and it's something I've advocated for the 17 years on the City Council. And we're excited to be announcing soon that our paramedic squad will be in the fire station to help relieve some of Station 37's call volume. And then soon after that, our first ladder truck here in the community will be here to staff that new fire station in about a year or so. So really excited about those. And then to get to one more announcement, then I'm going to talk a little bit about the senior center. I did announce on my social media that I'm supporting the two fighters for MMA Kihan. There's Brian Cabello and Madeline Meza. These two have won the national championship and will be going to the Worlds in Dubai, and they're trying to raise $5,000 each. So you can go on to Kihan MMA Studios, and I'm sure you can find some link, or go to my social media pages and you can find the link to their GoFundMe pages. Those are two youth in our community. Kihan MMA Studios have done a fantastic job. As Mr. Betts has said, there's a young woman that's now fighting and winning, and they're training young kids. I walked there and there on Saturday to say hi, and there was probably at least 20 kids on the mat that were ranging from 5 to 8 years old, and it was just awesome to see. So this is a great opportunity. Follow them on social media and watch their story. And then lastly, a lot of questions about the senior center. As a mayor, I haven't been there to really do a town hall in a while. I think it's an opportunity now that we'll be taking over the program. I think I'll get with the city manager and our mayor pro tem, who attends the senior center on a regular basis, and we'll come sit and talk with you about some of your questions of what the future will look like. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding on some of the questions that were asked tonight. The city never shut down the kitchen. That was the health department. That's not part of the city of Desert Hot Springs. And there's a lot of programming that won't change, and I believe it'll be better. We're not paying any more. You're not paying any less. I know you have concerns about your staffing, which Roberta Cernick back there in our city manager's office will be working closely to make sure that you're very pleased with who you have going forward. It's just time that the city take the program back over. So, all right. And thank you, everybody, for your comments tonight. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Anderson, I have one more thing. I'm chair of the Palm Springs Cemetery District, and we have not gotten a raise for 16 years. And with respect to transparency, it will be put into the Desert Sun twice. before it is actually implemented. With that, I'm done.
Thank you very much. Moving to public hearings, you don't have to stick around for the rest of the council unless you really love to see government in action. But feel free, you don't have to stick around if you don't want to. We're going to move to public hearings tonight. Item number 1 is a Desert Valley disposal, placing delinquent disposal to Billings on the county tax roll for fiscal year 24-25. Mr. Buckheim?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. Before you is a resolution to place the delinquent Billings for Desert Valley disposal on the fiscal year 24-25 tax roll. The past due amounts total $219,646.60, representing 150 accounts. Placing delinquent waste disposal accounts on the tax roll will constitute as a tax lien on the property. Adoption of the resolution will enable the county auditor controller to collect these charges in conjunction with property taxes. We have Chris with DVD and Charmaine with web for also to help with any further questions.
Thank you very much. As always, if there's anyone in the public here that wants to dispute any of these, those individuals spoken about can meet with you in the back and discuss this after you make comments, or even before you make comments. If you're not comfortable with making comments, you just want to speak to somebody. I'm going to entertain questions of staff from the city council at this time before I open a public hearing. Does any council members have, I believe the queue is supposed to be working tonight, so if you get a chance, just put it in there. Let's give it a test. Does anybody have any questions for staff? See nobody in the queue. We'll go to opening the public hearing at this time. Is there anybody that would like to speak on this item in favor, opposed, or neutral position? Yes, ma'am. You can come forward. If you just state if you're in favor, opposed, or a neutral position.
Am I on? Okay, yes, I'm kind of like in a neutral position because, of course, we don't want to have any raises of our taxes as the residents in Desert Hot Springs. But my husband did point out that it was only amounting to about a $50 raise per annual. And I'm hoping that we could get the on-call bulky trash more than the 3 or 4 times a year, like was proposed in the first round of this, like last year, I think it was, when this was first introduced. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak in public hearing on favor, opposed, or in neutral position before we close the public hearing? Yes, sir.
Hi, Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Rancho Mirage. I did fill out a speaker card for this in opposition. I'm just not a big fan of this type of assessment on the personal property or private property. I know it's already a contracted deal and you have this in play already, but I fear that this is people that don't have services collected, or I'm sure the DVD doesn't supply who has garbage picked up and when on a daily basis if they have it picked up. So I'm concerned that people that aren't here are paying more than their fair share for this type of service, and I'm trying to think of all the legal issues, and I guess I want to go even as far to say I can't really say, I haven't researched this, but if there are late fees or penalties involved with not paying the services on time, is that part of this fee too? I noticed there was 110, I'm sorry, I'm going off my memory, but I just want to emphasize that I'm opposed to private property being taxed, because it's very unlikely, but somebody could lose a home over this type of instrument using for garbage pickup, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in public hearing? I see nobody else coming forth. I'll close the public hearing and I'll open up to comments. I don't have anybody in the queue. Does anybody else have any comments?
It's not working.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. There, I just refreshed it. It's now coming in. So the refresh button didn't work. Mr. Betts.
Thank you. So this is placing delinquent billings on the tax rolls. This isn't a decision by the council to allow that to happen. That's coming in the next agenda item, correct?
That's correct, just delinquent bills.
So just for the public speakers here that would have a concern about that, that'll come up with the next item. But these are people who haven't paid their bill, and this is putting the delinquents on the bill, correct? Thank you.
Correct.
Ms. Pye?
I notice it's much less than it has been, so it being repeated, it seems to work, and it seems to be more commercial than residential. That's
Anyone
all.
else? I don't have anybody else in the queue. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move that we put the Desert Valley disposal, delinquent disposal billings on the county tax roll fiscal
second.
year 24-25.
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let's wait for it to come up on the screen. It's been moved. Is it seconded? No other comments? Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is a resolution ordering annual assessments for the Desert Valley Disposal Solid Waste Refuge Services of residential properties for fiscal year 24-25. Mr. Buckheim?
Yes, thank you. So Desert Valley Disposal is the current solid waste refuge services provider for the city. As per the franchise agreement with DVD, the direct residential billing for solid waste refuse services shall be an assessment on the county property tax bill. On May 7th, the City Council already declared its intention to levy these assessments for residential solid waste services. The annual billing of the residential properties on the fiscal year 24-25 tax roll amounts to $4,056,122.91, representing 7,801 accounts. Adoption of this resolution will enable the county auditor controller to collect these charges in conjunction with property taxes.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Let me refresh. I don't know if anybody's in the queue. I don't see anybody. Okay. So no questions of staff at this time. We'll go to opening the public hearing, and we'll be taking testimony in favor, opposed, or neutral position. Anybody can come forward and state your position.
Of this. Hi, Brad Anderson, City of Rancho Mirage. I'm in opposition of this. I know this is a long-term contract. I believe at the end of the next decade that it expires. So I just urge property owners in Desert Hot Springs to take an active role in this. I don't know if there's a cap on this, but 5.25%, I believe it is, the increase every year, possibly, if not more. That's concerning, and I think it's what I've noticed. It was just under $520 per properly listed. I pay a far less than that in the City of Rancho Mirage, and I have twice weekly pickup. Explain that. I just not that this contractor is taking advantage of you, but I don't think every resident needs to. Well, I'm going off. I think people need to look into this contract. And even what we're doing here with this protest hearing, or, well, I don't even know what this is called, but if you did have an aspect, that's in the contract, it's like $20,000 for that, and then you have these cleanup events, that's all included. It's really monkey. I haven't really determined what's involved here, but I know the residents are paying more than they need to for a service that they may not have received. And I think they should have the freedom to choose to work with the contractor independently away from the city. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yes, hi, Stephanie Martin, resident of District 3 in Desert Hot Springs. Yes, I concur. I'm in total opposition now after hearing my fellow Coachella Valleyan speak on average rates and services and negotiation strategies and things like that. On first blush, I did think $520 was too high. I used to live in Coachella. We used to do Birtec. They were cool. They did all the bulky trash services and everything. I remember 3 years ago when I started paying attention to things like this in the city of Desert Hot Springs, If these cleanup events are also like a part of these negotiations, no offense, but I've been hearing Mr. Mayor here say about the same rhetoric for the 3 years, no improvement from, well, we're just teaching those kiddos to go home and hopefully they'll teach their parents, as if we don't teach our children how to compost and use our recycling and trash can properly already. So that's a little kind of an unnecessary dig, and certainly could use improvement if our tax paying dollars are going towards that kind of a program. We wouldn't want to be insulted to boot, in addition to paying too much. That's not right, or just, or civil, or nice, Anyways, so I'm in total opposition as well. Obviously, nobody likes their private property being taxed, especially if it feels unnecessary or excessive. And if we are going to get at this rate, give us some services. Give us back the unlimited bulky trash can service. Give us some twice a week like Rancho Mirage. Let's do some shopping around and some comparison rates and really see if we're getting a good value here, folks, because we're worth it. We're worth it here in Desert Hot Springs. Thank you.
Any other public comments? I see nobody coming forth. We'll close the public hearing at this time, and we'll go to city council discussions. Mr. Betts, I don't have you in the queue, but I heard you say you did have something.
Thank you, yes. So first, I want to clarify a couple things on this, is that the first decision is to allow Desert Valley Disposal to put these billings on the tax rolls. And that actually helps keep everybody's rate down because it's the most efficient way for them to bill and collect. The alternative is to send out bills to everybody else with the cost of that postage and manage a very costly system of collections, receivables, and a lot of delinquencies that they have to chase down. All that costs money. Now, there are some people who prefer not to have that on their tax bill, that want to pay it, and I did hear from some of them today. I called up Chris Cunningham at Desert Valley Disposal and discussed this with him. And it is perfectly okay if you do not want this to show up on your tax bill, that you can request that Desert Valley Disposal just give you billing and you pay your bill. I think it's annual, right? Just pay it now instead of once a year or twice a year on your tax bill. Our family prefers that method. And Brad, I agree with you that nobody should lose their home over these fees that are above and beyond if they sit in a situation where their house is being sold for tax, if you fail to pay taxes. I think it should only be the Prop 13, but that's an issue for the supervisors to take up, and maybe you and I can get together and we'll press that issue. On the rate increase, what is it, 5.24%? Is that what I'm seeing here? First off, we had huge inflationary times going on. Fuel's up. But the other thing is the state has mandated a whole bunch of extra services. And you see the green trash cans that we're all putting out now. That doesn't come for free. There's another truck running for those. So, it's just, I'm the last one to want to put any of these increases on here, but this is reasonable. It's not an exorbitant increase like we've seen in some other areas. So I'm okay with that. And we've had a great partner here with Desert Valley Disposal. The pickups, I don't know if any other community where I've had free pickups like we have here, but is it 3 times? 4 times. 4 times a year, you can put 2 bulky items out and just call them. And if you see a bulky item, like along the side of a road, like a mattress on Little Morongo, not long ago, I picked up the phone and called them. It was picked up right away. They're doing a lot of work to remove junk and debris that keeps our community looking better. Chris keeps saying, I don't know when we're going to run out of this stuff. People, quit bringing the stuff home. You don't need it if there's just too much junk getting hauled out of the city. Maybe we'll reach the end of it soon. Anyhow, so Chris, I want to thank you for the job you're doing for the city, and I support this one.
Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll concur with Mr. Betts, but one quick thing, we do have you can call and get picked up 4 times a year. We also have the ones where you don't have to call, which is another 4 times a year where you can just put it out by the curb. And the city and DVD both notify everybody when those are available. So 8 times a year, you can put your big stuff out if you have that much stuff. I know a few people that do, some of my neighbors do. But it's a lot better than putting it out in the desert. And I really appreciate how Desert Valley Disposal takes care of our city and cleans it up and keeps it looking nice. And I know whenever we do have an issue, we can call up and they will come and take care of it. When we were opening up the Long Canyon Trail a couple of years ago, and there was so much excess dumping out there that Chris and his folks came out and just cleaned that up and did a fantastic job. So it is a little bit more expensive, because of those state mandates, but I agree. It's all in line with what needs to be done and what they're being required to do now, and I'm in favor of it as well.
No? I just want to make some quick comments. If you go back to the previous item, $250,000 in people who haven't paid. And if there's not a way to collect that and put it on the tax roll and lien their properties in the future for collection, then as stated by Mr. Betts, it goes to us, the ones that are paying, and we end up having to pay for it eventually for those individuals. So this process is fair. It's an opportunity. If someone's gone that far that they're going to end up in a tax lien sale, they're obviously having a lot more problems than just that, and there are some avenues to help with those. And to the comments of we shouldn't train our kids then to pick up trash or where it goes, I wasn't being condescending. What I was saying is that we're going into the schools to teach kids where the trash should go, because a lot of kids don't know. And if they can go home and tell one parent or two parents of all those hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars we spend on trash dumped in our deserts every year, I think we've accomplished something and done something good for our community environment and our earth. With that, I'll take a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll move that we adopt the resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. No other comments? Please vote.
Sorry, it was second by Russell Betts.
Motion passes unanimously.
We'll move to item number 3, a resolution amending existing user fees related to mobile food facilities. Ms. Newsom.
What'd you do, hit my button, Roger? It's okay, you can have it, it's all right.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The resolution before you is an amendment to an existing fee for an annual mobile food facility permit. The current fee for the processing of a mobile facility permit is $50. The proposed amendment will increase this permit fee to $383.13 to recover 100% of staff time. The proposed fee will result in increase in user revenues for the city. Currently, the city processes approximately 15 new mobile food facility permits per year, which will generate $5,746.95 in fees. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Before we get to question, we do have questions. Go ahead, Mr. Gardner.
Just for clarification, Ms. Newsom, on this particular license applies to, for instance, the cold fruit guys and the other ones that are on the
So
corner.
I'm going to clarify that in a later item, but this is what used to be referred to as a mobile food vending vehicle, typically food trucks, but we will propose later on to expand that to various categories of food facilities per alignment with the county ordinance.
So this is the food truck piece of it?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Christina, I just want to see, okay, so when they're coming in, are we just giving them a application, they're filling it out, and that's just for them doing business here, correct?
Yes, so they need 2 levels essentially of permitting, a business license, and then the mobile food facility permit, and that is done by application, staff review, and either, approval or denial.
Okay. Are we able to do maybe maybe this can come up in a later date, but just inviting them, like potential food truck vendors that want to be interested in doing a business license here to do a workshop to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it, and we can walk it through the process.
I have that scheduled, sir.
Beautiful, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move to, go ahead.
So the permit fee is $383.13?
Proposed.
What was it previously before this action?
$50.
$50. And I always look at these user fee studies, and it takes 2 assistant planners and 2 permit technicians to approve a food truck permit. How does that work out?
They're-
What are they
they're-
doing?
They're hours of staff time, not, so each position is at 2 hours.
Okay, so 2 hours. So somebody comes in with a food truck permit, they go up to the counter, and it's costing 4 man-hours for us to process that application?
Correct. So there's a multitude of things that we review. If it's a corporation, we do articles of incorporation. If they have employees, we want to make sure that all of them have driver's license, that they have food handlers certifications, that they have a county health permit. We take a look at all their submittal requirements. It may require time to follow up with the applicant if there's missing information. And then we go through a process that is typically per the municipal code codified as to whether or not they're eligible to be approved or denied at that point.
So for the public, and I wanted to say, well, that sure answers that question, thanks. For the public, it's not just a matter of coming up here, paying your fee, stamping the permit, and you're done. There's all kinds of stuff that you have to do that amounts to those hours that are shown.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Very good explanation.
Open the public hearing at this time. We'll take testimony in favor, opposed, or neutral position. Does anybody want to make any comments on this?
I'm trying to be brief here, but I don't want to
Microphone.
I'm kind of in opposition to this just because I have noticed that the popularity of the Friday nights at Pearson has been gone down. A few community members have sold their trucks. Anyways, I'm just thinking, could we maybe think about streamlining this on the back end with, putting it all online, all this, if they either got it or they don't, they could fill it out online, and then that would be much more laborious on the user who has an incentive to get all these documents in anyways. So, yeah, I just feel like $383 is kind of like might de-incentivize a lot of the food truck operators into actually doing business in the city of Desert Hot Springs. So we always want to consider that for sure. $50 might be an incentive to be like, hey, okay, cool. That seems, I definitely will get that back for 4 hours of my time. They're not, let's think about their time and what it costs there to keep the lights on and the food truck and the gas going and the generators running too. Let's be fair all the way around here. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
I got a quick
Close the
question.
public hearing at this time. We'll go to council discussion and questions. Mr. Betts?
Yeah, so this is a good for a year, correct? Or is it good forever?
It's annual, yes.
Annual. So, let's see if they're doing one a month, it's not a lot of money.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move resolution amending existing user fees related to street vendors.
There's a motion and a second. Wait for it to come up on the screen. Because we have an electronic system. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
And I believe Gerald, when the electronic, it comes up on the screen showing the votes too, so you can see them. Item number 4 is a resolution amending existing user fees related to street vendors. Ms. Newsom.
Yes, so this resolution is an amendment to the existing fee for annual sidewalk vendor permits, and the current fee for processing a sidewalk vendor permit is $50. The proposed amendment will increase the sidewalk vendor permit fee to $383.13 to recover 100% of staff time. The proposed fee will result in an increase in user fee revenues for the city. Currently, the city processes approximately 10 new sidewalk vendor permits per year, which will generate $3,831.30 in user fees. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I have a question. How often do you check the street vendors? Do you have to wait for a complaint, or do you guys have sometimes during the year that you go out and check?
So some violations are just blatantly obvious. We don't allow street vendors anywhere in the safety corridor, so if we're driving by and we see one, we know automatically they're in violation. Other violations require inspection. Every sidewalk vendor is required to have on display their permit and business license. And so if we see one on just a various corner and that's prominently displayed, typically there's no reason to inspect. Other things that we consider is they can't vend from private property. And so things like that, we will do what we call sweep inspections for. But the majority of our sidewalk vendors that are permitted, we know who they are, we know what they sell.
And I know this is a little bit off topic, but they can't block the sidewalks, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Gardner?
So you hit the two that I was going to ask, the blocking of the sidewalk one, and are they displaying their permits? So if they're not, they have to display their permit.
Correct.
And they can't block the sidewalk.
That's correct.
Now, I'm assuming they have to ask permission to be on, let's, for instance, say the post office front yard. Do they have to ask the post office for permission to set up there?
So if a sidewalk vendor leaves the sidewalk, essentially, the public right-of-way, and they're operating from a private property, they're no longer a sidewalk vendor or regulated as such under this code. So they can operate in events such as a special event or a community event, and under that permit, they would be permitted to operate at that event. But once they leave the sidewalk, this no longer applies.
So is it difficult for them to stay on the sidewalk and not block it without being on private property?
Typically not. We don't have any issues. We've had some issues in the past with them having an excess of, like merchandise or equipment or tables, and so we just go out there and kindly remind them that they need to have that path of travel cleared, and then they just either alter, their setup or their merchandise.
And how does this deal with the pop-ups for special events? For instance, when, Lizzie's wants to have a taco guy come by or something like that,
So this is, I will get into this in the item that I'm bringing forward. However, these are two separate things. So pop-ups are considered food facilities, not sidewalk vendors in this sense. Sidewalk vendors can sell food, which is kind of confusing, but I will get into that later.
Yeah, we're kind of getting off topic now, so we're starting the agenda items. So any questions down here?
Yes, I have.
Mr. Nunez and then Mr. Betts.
So on the street vendors, I know this is going to kind of get crazy on Facebook or social media, I should say. So I'm hoping that we can clear it up with the city, that we're not harassing street vendors. We are just trying to make sure that they're in compliance and their safety and resident safeties are important.
I will get into that as well later. Thank you.
Mr. Betts?
On the permits, this item is merely just to establish the fee, correct?
Correct, yeah. So both of the fees that we're bringing tonight have not been amended for quite some time, several years. And so we're just trying to recover staff time with the processing.
And we have a later agenda item where we can pick up all these other issues regarding sidewalk and else. So I'll save my comments for
Yes.
that. Thank you.
All right, we'll open the public hearing at this time and take any testimony in favor, opposed, or neutral position.
I also am opposed to this. I was really considering doing my thing as a non-food street vendor for the Friday nights at Pearson and stuff. And I just got to say, as a really small micro business owner, this fee is too high for me. I'd probably just say BAMP. So I'm just saying, as immediate feedback, I'm like, wow, I'm gonna have to rebudget things here now, because it's so much higher. So I oppose this. Keep it low. Do stuff on the back end to where it's easier and cost effective with all the technology at our fingertips nowadays. That's so cool and important to consider.
Anyone else? See nobody coming forth, we'll close the public hearing and we'll open it for discussion or a motion.
I'll move that we start the resolution amending existing user fees related to street vendors.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
I didn't know why Chris was hanging out and Liz, but all of a sudden I realized why they were still hanging out. So I'm going to get to that item right now so you guys don't have to hang out with us anymore. I'm assuming you're still here for item 16. We're going to jump to the consent calendar. Item 16 was pulled off the consent calendar by Mr. Betts. Did you need a staff report or did you just have comments?
Yeah, this is a 15-year agreement, as I understand, correct?
Yes, the franchise agreement, so that's item number, was it 16?
I'm sorry, I should have made the announcement. This is the First Amendment and restated exclusive franchise agreement.
So I just, 15-year agreement seems like this shouldn't be on consent, that we could at least get a staff report on this and open up any questions, maybe if there are any after that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the item in front of you this evening, the amendment, we're not renegotiating the term on it. The reason that this amendment is coming forth is state policy, SB 1383. Part of the policy there, was to have an amended franchise agreement to be inclusive of the requirements of 1383. So the term still always was the 15 years. Within the agreement, though, however, which has been a historical term in the agreement, is there's a reinvestment fee, which basically adds a year every year. So it'll always be a rolling 15 years. So DVD would contribute $200,000 to the city for an extra year. So again, it would always be rolling 15 years. That was the reinvestment fee. One thing else, in addition, the reinvestment fee does have an inflationary period to it, so the $200,000 isn't a fixed amount. Then finally, I think, as mentioned earlier, and just from a little background behind it, DVD has been the hauler for the city since 1978. I think Chris said he was, like 6 or in that range. So they've been a longtime partner with the city. The partnership has been a good relationship with the city and its residents. It has evolved through the years, these adjustments and these franchise fees. This involvement, again, stimulated from the state of California, not from the city council or staff. Part of the implementation of 1383 went into place, I think, January of 2023. So we've been operating under an agreement, a mutual agreement, but not a codified agreement for 1383. This brings forth codification of that. And there are representatives from DVD if the council has any questions.
Mr. Mayor, that satisfied my concern. I was just hoping for a staff report on this. Thank you.
If there's no other questions, is there any comments in the public about this? No one coming forward. Close public comments, and I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We're going to go back to, actually, we're done with public hearings, so we start an administrative calendar. We're going to take a 7-minute break. Why don't we come back at 7:25?
Yeah, there was 2 other.
If I can get all the council members to make their way back to the dais, 1 minute. All right, council's making their way back. I'll call the meeting back to order. We're going to move to the administrative calendar and item number 5, which is the adoption of the Parks Master Plan. Mr. Haker. Or Mr. Haker's not here.
I'm in this place today. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and city staff. My name is Daniel Lopez, and I'll be introducing the Parks Master Plan for Desert Hot Springs. So in 2021, the Park Committee reviewed the 2013 Parks and Recreation Master Plan and unanimously agreed on the need for an update. On February 21st, 2022, City Council approved the Parks Committee recommendation to authorize staff to issue a request for proposal to hire a consultant to update and complete a new Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And on July 5th, 2022, the professional service agreement for the Park and Recreation Master Plan was awarded to KTUA. So KTUA designed a visionary parks and master plan designed to enhance community engagement, foster inclusivity, and revitalize public spaces through a multifaceted approach. This plan integrates various methods of interaction, including project branding, social media outreach, community surveys, pop-up events, workshops, city council interviews, and stakeholder focus group meetings. By prioritizing collaboration and feedback, the new Desert Hot Springs Parks Master Plan aims to create a vibrant, sustainable, and accessible parks that reflect the diverse needs and desires of the community. The Parks Master Plan is essential and required for state and federal grants. City staff recommends the adoption of the Parks Master Plan. And I have Alex Samarin from KTUA here with a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Can you state your name again also for me, please?
Hi, my name is Alex Samarin. I'm with KTUA. Well, thank you for having me tonight. I'm with KTUA, a planning and landscape architecture firm in San Diego. I'm here to present some of the highlights from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. As a planning and landscape firm, we do parks and recreation master plans across the state, as well as active transportation plans. So there's both of those go hand in hand, and we, like as a company, like to blend the two together. So there are elements of active transportation plan, an active transportation plan in your Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Here's our team. I'm supported by designers and planners and a principal at our company. And we also have a sub-consulting company, Matrix Consulting Group, that does the financial and programming analysis in the plan. So first things first, what is a Parks and Recreation Master Plan? It's a guiding document looking ahead about 10 years to set goals and priorities for the city to achieve in terms of park needs. A big component of it is community and stakeholder engagement. We reached out to various community groups, had online surveys, and talked to each of you in stakeholder interviews. We also identify potential funding sources so that the city staff can go after grant money and get and implement our recommendations. What does the plan not do? It doesn't go into park design, environmental review, or engineering detail. If there are future funds that enable construction documents and specific park master plans, that's a next step to come out of this. We look citywide and determine needs. So the bulk of the of the plan is in the analysis, the community engagement, and recommendations. We go through a process of looking at where key demographics are and trying to target those key demographics through different outreach efforts and listen to needs and then translate those into some opportunity areas and within existing parks and potential new parks in your city. So since the previous park master plan from 2012-2013, the park system hasn't changed. There's 9 parks totaling about 39 acres. There's a variety of facilities, community parks, mini parks, and even some special use parks like the museum. So I'd like to say it's small. It's a small but mighty system. Some of the highlights are that you actually have designated soccer fields. That's not an easy thing to come by in Southern California, or at least those that have soccer fields are sharing them with high schools and with other groups. These are community fields, and they are heavily used. So as I go into some further detail, you'll see that there's even though you're lucky to have these, there's demand for more. You have access to open space. You have a great recreation aquatic center. So these are all amenities to be proud of that we don't often see in some of the communities we work in. One of the first levels of analysis we do is looking citywide, comparing your park acreage to the population. In terms of the goal of park acres per 1,000 residents. Currently, you're sitting at about 30,000 residents with these 39 acres of parks and applying a 3 acre per resident, 3 acre per 1,000 residents standard, you're at a deficit of 58 and a quarter acres. And since this presentation has been created and presented last week at the Planning Commission, I also want to highlight that the 3 acre standard is what was used in the previous plan and it's in your general plan, but city code does state 5 acres. So these, we've heard those comments and these are easy to revise before final submission. Just a note. So looking into the future, the table on my right, I should say 2045 acres level of service. The Southern California Association of Governments forecasts that you'll double in population to about 60,000. Whether or not you get there is another question. But in any case, if the park system doesn't grow, your acreage deficit increases. So easy math, right? And again, that new 5 acre standard will be applied to both of these tables and other places in the document. Looking at within each park, the amenities, we visited all the parks in your city. We literally count things like picnic areas and baseball fields and basketball fields and basketball courts. And compare those to some national benchmarks provided by the National Recreation Park Association. And the take home here is that you're looking pretty good amenity-wise with your current population and your current park system, the current amenities within your park. But again, looking forward with increasing population, that is going to change. And so we take analysis like this and combine it with community feedback to say, well, what does, these are what the national benchmarks say, but what does the community say? And we try to balance those together. So looking generally at the distribution of parks within your city, we use travel sheds. And this is basically the area around each park that is accessible within a given travel time by a given travel mode. So we use half-mile travel sheds to represent a walkable distance, about 10 minutes, and 2 or 3 minute drive to represent like reasonable driving times to parks. So if you look on the map, the darker green polygon with dots in it, that's the park walk sheds. That's areas accessible from a park within a 10-minute walk. You can see that there's gaps, and these are prevalent throughout the city. The lighter green on the map, covering more of the city, shows that you actually have pretty good coverage for driving. So think about the goals of parks and recreation and public health. It's to get people outside and moving, and that's something that the city should strive for. So filling in the park gaps for the walking distances is important, and combining that with focusing on the more disadvantaged areas of the city. So as I mentioned, community engagement is an important part of this. We started back in 2023 at Little League opening day, talking to all of the different youth baseball players and coaches and parents. Heard a lot about the need for lighting and improved fields, and in some cases improved access to the fields for different users. So we also launched a community survey at that event and online at that event. In total we collected about 120 surveys or so. So we also did focus group meetings with sports organizations. We talked to the high school sports groups, ASO, football, a few others, and community partners like Diversity DHS and the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission. We heard a lot of opportunities that are included in the plan as some of the policy initiatives. So, and we spoke with all of you coming up on a year ago. And your recommendations and your suggestions made it into some of mostly the actions and initiatives that are in the plan. So here are just some of pictures from our outreach events and some of the material we used in hard copy and on social media to get the word out. Like the park system, the community engagement is also small but mighty. People were very vocal, those who showed up, so it's good to see. So, like I said, we combine this high level of acreage and travel shed analysis and community input and come up with recommendations. The one thing I didn't focus on in the presentation so far was the programming and financing part of the park system. So that is also in the recommendations as opportunities to provide different the programs that are currently provided. It's a relatively new effort that's gotten started in the last couple of years. So there are recommendations to help it grow, focusing on indoor facilities to help bring people in out of the hot weather, focus on seniors. It's great that that kind of coincides with the things that were talked about tonight. And future park opportunities with organizations like CVCC. And suggestions on how to implement these short, mid, and long-term goals. So here's some of the initiatives. I'll give some examples of some of these topics. Parks and facilities, we're just talking about where we can put new parks and what to put in existing parks. Programs and services focuses on things like I just mentioned, the senior programs, teen after-school programs, and indoor sports, things like that. Equity and access and connectivity talk about some of the things that the council brought up in stakeholder meetings. Connectivity to parks, so thinking outside the park to bring people to the park. Linear parks, active transportation, so that's where our focus on active transportation really comes in. We're able to look at linear park opportunities with a different lens. So that's all in the plan as well. We also look at sustainability and placemaking, making recommendations for what can be in the park to make it more enjoyable, environmental education opportunities, and different programs for to enhance sustainability. Placemaking, simple things like shade, whether that be a shade structure, trees, more picnic areas, things like that. It's very simple park-based placemaking. Safety and comfort, we talk about some of the park design principles for lighting and different design that keeps parks enjoyable for everybody. And I want to highlight under administration, the administration initiative, one of the things that was talked about last week with Planning Commission was a need to get the word out about the great parks you have and programs via different channels that the city has, and that's also included in recommendations here. As I've been talking kind of in two different lenses here, looking citywide, needs, but also looking within each park and looking at opportunity areas. So we do have a high level suggestion for each park in the community, looking at underused areas or opportunity areas is what we like to call them, potential amenity infill areas. And we've identified not only the areas, but different uses, whether there's things like outdoor exercise area that can go there, or group picnic area, things like that. And these recommendations coincide with the amenities inventory and level of service that I talked about earlier. I want to highlight a couple of the future park recommendations. Of course, your city's been successful recently with the corporate yard park funding and plan and design, so that's great. The acreage level of service I've talked about so far hasn't included that, so there's one thing that'll improve that acreage level of service toward the city goals. Skyborn Park was something that the community brought up a lot, and some of you council members as well, including that in the plan to get that built and address the park need in that area of the city. Some of the other recommendations include linear park along Mission Lakes Boulevard. I should get that right. Coinciding with some upcoming grant opportunities that the city is pursuing. So a lot of opportunity for new park areas. I'll also point out Rancho del Oro Park, which is an opportunity for a linear park. And we also heard a lot in the stakeholder meetings about needing event space, be that indoor or outdoor, but a large event space that can be rented out for things like Pride Day or Boy Scouts, things like that. So we identified centralized opportunities for something like that in the city. So this is a high-level implementation plan, the types of things that you can achieve within short, mid, and longer periods, looking at 1 to 10 years. In the short term, you can install passive recreation amenities. These are the lower cost improvements, the shade structures that really kind of just make a park more enjoyable. Those can be done with any funds that are found, so to speak, at the end of the year, things like that. You can do marketing initiatives in the short term to get the word out about your great parks. Midterm, you can ask for more help in designing master plans for each of your parks That gives you a plan going forward to get more money for specific opportunities. You can acquire land that addresses park need in some of the target areas. And long-term, it's basically building relationships with outside organizations that own land in the city and acquiring or managing land with them to provide more opportunities in and outside adjacent to the city. So our next steps, we've spoken with the Planning Commission last week and here to hear your comments today. The recommendation is to adopt the plan today. And however that is done, we will make all the final edits from both Planning Commission and City Council today and then deliver that very soon thereafter. So with that, I'll be done with the presentation. But I can go back to anything that you'd like to see or answer any questions.
We appreciate you. I'm going to ask you to come back up in a minute if the council has questions, but first I'm going to take public comments. Would anybody like to make a public comment?
Tom Morin, 45-year resident of Desert Hot Springs, former Park and Rec Commission member here in Desert Hot Springs, and I enjoyed that presentation. Our parks are a crown jewel of Desert Hot Springs, and I'm glad to see that we are paying attention to it. I think we've had a deficit in our parks. When I've been around the valley and seen other things available, I think that certainly Desert Hot Springs should be just as beautiful as any other city in this Coachella Valley. And having raised two sons here, I'm glad to see something's happening with the parks, because when my sons were younger, there wasn't really a lot for them to do at the park. And I'm glad to see that we're paying extra attention to this. And I just wanted to give my kudos to my city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I too want to give my kudos to the city and the consultant that presented such a fine presentation. It was a little generalized, but I like the spirit of it. And I would just like to say about the vacant land, I had heard from another community member that 8th Street and Verbena, that used to be a park. There's remnants, there's archaeological evidence of a park. Just kidding. I think they said it was in the Y2K era, so that there was a park there. Perhaps we still own, or the city still owns that land, and perhaps that's a place for a little park. That would be fun. Anyways, I approve. I like this idea. Parks rule. Thank you.
Anyone else like to make comments? See nobody else coming forth. I'll start by saying Councilmember Nunez and I started a while back, years ago during COVID, with a committee of residents that talked about a pathway to strengthening our parks and our community and recreational programs. This is one of the main ideas, was to build a park master plan, and it's taken a few years to do so, but it's done. I read through it. It's fantastic. It's our blueprint to a lot of grant funding, and hopefully in the future, and what we need. I don't think it's missing anything at this point. I think it can be a working document over time, and I would say we should adopt it today and move forward. Mr. Nunez, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I remember when I first got elected, and we talked, and you said, yeah, I ought to be on that committee with you, and I know it's kind of a lot of back and forth with a lot of the committee members, but I think what you proposed is like, you know what, we need to update our master plan. I think we need to start there before we can start talking about programs and where and how and when. So I think this is a great idea, and here here we are 3 years later, and to get this approved, I think this is the first start to really move on where we need to go and how. It's interesting to me to see the numbers that we're lacking in parks, and so I want to encourage all of us to be an advocate for, in Sacramento, to get monies for grants for we can start picking up on these parks. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gardner?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the queue is working.
It's working.
Good. Just a couple of quick observations on this, and like you, I read it, I thought it was a fantastic document. You did mention a couple of things about the CVCC, the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, which I am honored to chair, but I'm hoping to see a little bit more, either in detail in the report or at least planting the seed in the council and staff's mind that this is the amount of conservation land that is owned within the city limits is a wonderful opportunity for future park expansions where we don't have to purchase the land. It's sitting there. It's already owned by the CVCC, and we are now, like I mentioned in my council comments earlier, undergoing the process of, now that we own the land, we've got to figure out a process of what we're going to do with it, how we're going to deal with it, what we're going to do with it, and what cities can do with it. And because we have so much of it in our city, we have a golden opportunity. I can see a linear park running down Mission Creek Wash because virtually all of that is owned by the CVCC. CVCC also owns most, I'm going to say 85 to 90% of the land in the square mile that's bordered by Little Morongo, Indian, Mission Lakes, and Pearson. Most, if not all, of that land is already owned by CVCC. And one day, 30 years from now, after we're all long gone, that's going to be the middle of the city, and it'll be a beautiful opportunity. Yeah.
30 years, I might still be here.
You might. I probably won't. I am a senior, even though I was not accused of not being one. But there's a lot of land out there that's going to be absolutely great, and it won't be a significant cost to the city, which is, I think, the best thing we've done. But we've done, I think, a really good job as well of making good use of the plans and the parks that we have now and making some low-cost expansions. Perfect example of that is Rotary Dog Park. When we undertook that a couple of years ago, expanding that for a big dog park, that cost relatively little and is already land the city owned and was being unused, and made an addition. And we do have the best dog park in the city for as far as views. In fact, the cover of your slideshow was taken from the dog park. So that gives you an idea of the view up there, and it is a fantastic place. So, and we have the new corporate yard park that'll be done in a couple of years. That'll really make a dent in our deficit. We have to come up with a better name. We have to come up with this atrocious name, City Corporate Yard Park. But at any rate, this is a fantastic document, and I think, like the mayor said, a working document, and it'll guide the city well into the future. And we just have to make sure that when we have opportunities for moving on to CVCC land or getting additional grant funding, that this is one of the priority places that we put that to use. So I'm all in favor of adopting this.
Mayor Pro Tem Pai.
I like the document. It's very good, very precise. I like where you have what's funded, what's not funded. I like the information regarding Skag's population. We can do much more for planning the future with that. And basically, and I'll say it again, the analytical stuff is real good. Thank you.
Nobody else in the queue? Okay, Mr. Betts.
Thank you. Could we put up the slide, existing and future level of service? Do you have that one again? LOS?
They had a correction of the date on there.
Would that be for acreage?
That one.
Yeah.
So we're using recommended adopted standard 1,000 population of 3. And that's in the general plan, but in our ordinance, it's 5?
Correct.
Okay, so which one are we using?
5.
Okay, so this number here, it isn't 58.3 acre deficit, it's considerably more.
Yes, so this table is using 3, but it would be changed to use 5.
Okay,
so
but it's supposed to be 5.
Yes.
Will this table be corrected?
Yes.
Okay, so do you have any idea did you figure out what the number would be instead of 58.3 acre deficit now? What it would if it was at a recommended 5?
I personally haven't done the math, but our staff has made the change, actually.
Okay, when do we get an updated slide on this one?
It could be tomorrow.
Okay, good.
These are what these meetings are for, to update
And
this
then,
information.
and then the other thing is one is 2023 LOS, and the other slide is 2023 LS. What's the correct date on the right-hand slide?
2045 is the
2045.
correct date on the right, yeah.
Okay, because that didn't look right. And that'd be the same thing there.
Yeah.
It's more than 143 acres.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so appreciate the work you've done. It's good. I just had that question there that came up. I did follow your presentation in the Planning Commission. There were some really good questions there. So thank you for that. So this is an update in the master plan that shows a significant deficit. What we need to do is get some more parks in the city. And there was some talk about, the CVCC, the conservation land that we have here. Right now, that's off limits to certainly motorized vehicles. Probably, is it off limit to bicycles? Or we don't know, right?
No, bicycle is not. It's right now is restricted to walking.
Walking only. Okay, so we can put walking paths through there? We don't know. You're working that out.
Working that out. That's one of the priorities we have.
Can't hear you, Gary. Your microphone's off.
Yes, that's one of the priorities we've instituted at CVCC is developing the standards, what will be allowed, what won't be allowed, what cities can do, what they can't do with conservation land within their boundaries.
Okay, so when the MSHCP went through years ago, the vision was, is it 50 or 100 years when everything's developed, you can drive through and actually be able to see what the desert looks like. And if you go to parts of Chicago, if you're driving through, they've got areas that they set aside that become huge parks that actually have roads going through them. And, maybe we're looking at something like that down the road, but we've got to get there. I agree with you, 30 years from now, there better be a wheelchair path through there, because I'm not going to be walking the Little Morongo Wash at 95 or whatever it is. Okay, I just keep looking at cities like Coachella. My gosh, how they're getting park money after park money after park money. And we need to figure this one out. There's a few things that we could do ourselves to improve the situation, like requiring the developers to actually put in parks that were in the original development agreement. You have Karen Park out there that, that was supposed to have been a 5-acre park that was installed at the cost by the developer before the first certificate of occupancy, which means before anybody moved into any home, that park was supposed to be built and complete. And over the years of that, it's just been to the point now where we've got the land, but when's it ever going to be a park? And I think you mentioned it in there, but I'm sure the person who mentioned that to you when we talked a year ago was me, because I'm still concerned over that. It's been a huge giveaway by the city, and we've got the same thing out at Hacienda Heights years and years ago. They dedicated some land, but no park, and there's no park in Hacienda Heights. Rancho Del Oro, even before that, was supposed to have a park. It didn't go in. One of these days, and that number would look a whole lot better up there, is if when we enter into a development agreement and require a developer to put in a park, that we actually make them do it. So we got a huge deficit. We need to figure out a way to get some parks going, and I think we need to turn, or this document is, into reality, as a wake-up call that we are severely short on parks and need to get that corrected. So that's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Gardner had a comment that Mr. Nunez is back in the queue.
All right, just real quick, when you're updating this with correcting this slide and a couple of other things, I don't remember if it's in there or not, but can you put in a page showing the CVCC lands throughout the city as of this year, so that future, as we're looking at our planning document down the road, we can look to see what lands are already there. We have a couple of maps in the back of there that show that are where the CVCC land is, but it would be good to have that as well in this document. So if you can get that from staff and add that to it, it'd be great.
Absolutely.
Mr. Nunez?
Mr. Mayor, with that included in the motion, I'd love to move that we approve and adopt here it is right here.
All right, there's a motion to
The
adopt the
master plan,
Parks
Parks
Master
Master Plan.
Plan with the addition to the CVCC land. Did I get too many Cs in there? Did I get it right? CVCC, yeah. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Any other comments? Please vote.
Gerald, my agenda went all kind of crazy. It looks different also, but it still went through.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks for spending the evening with us.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to items 6 and 7. We're going to take them together due to the fact that 3 of us are going to have to recuse ourselves. Being the fact that we have to recuse ourselves, we're going to state our recusals, and then Gerald has a whole new system so he doesn't get splinters on his fingers this time. He's going to have 3 straws coming out of a coffee cup. 2 of the straws are black, painted black at the bottom, and if you get a black painted at the bottom of the stick, you will leave the room. There'll be 1 stick that's not painted. Item 6 is Landscape and Lighting Maintenance District Number 2, intention proceedings for the levy and collection of assessments. Drainage assessment, District Number 1, intention proceedings for the levy and collection of assessments. My recusal is that I live within Lighting and Landscaping Maintenance District and a Drainage Assessments District within 500 feet. Mr. Betts?
I have homes or a home in each of these items, so that presents a proximity conflict for me.
Mr. Nunez?
I also live within 500 feet of the project. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Suriano, will you conduct
Start on that side this time.
secret straw? The one that does not have a color, there's 2 that are colored black at the bottom. Those individuals will leave the room.
That's Mr. Nunez.
Yeah, there's no reason to pull. All right, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, you will conduct the items 6 and 7.
You want me to just slide this in?
No.
So the staff report will be given by Finance Manager Tiffany Verdusco.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. So City Council has previously formed a resolution to levy annual assessments for landscaping and lighting maintenance district number 2, zones 1 through 19. Adoption of these resolutions declares the intention to levy the assessments and approves the engineer's report upon which the levies are based. Improvements provided by the district include, but are not limited to, ground cover, shrubs, plants and trees, irrigation systems, landscaping lighting, street lighting, graffiti removal, etc. Attached, you will see the annual engineer's report that sets forth the cost of improvements, services, maintenance, and operations of the district. Placing the levy on the tax rolls would prevent decreasing certain district service levels, including the closure or abandonment of the district itself. Adoption of the attached resolution declares the intention to levy assessments for fiscal year 2024 through 2025 for the cost of improvements, services, maintenance, and operations of the district, and additionally will approve the engineer's report upon which the levies are based. Staff recommends to adopt the resolution of the City Council declaring the intention for the levy and collection of assessments for landscape and lighting maintenance district number 2, zones 1 through 19 for fiscal year 24-25, and to adopt the resolution approving the annual engineer's report regarding the proposed levy and collection of the assessments of lighting and landscape and lighting maintenance district number 2, zones 1 through 19 for fiscal year 24-25.
Are there any questions? Hold on. Are there any public comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I'm not sure if this goes to you, Frank, or you, but we've had issues in the past with the LMDs being underfunded. Are we still underfunded in this one?
No.
So this will cover everything. We won't be dipping into the general fund.
It's the citywide one that was on the consent calendar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, thanks.
You have a question?
All right, I'll move that we put the Drainage Assessment District Number 1 from the levy and collection of assessments on the property tax rolls.
I will second.
There's 1 and 2.
Are we doing a double vote on those, or do we have to do a single vote? I mean, happy to amend that to say that we'll also do but she hasn't done the staff report on the second one.
Let me read the second one for the drainage assessment. Okay. So again, City Council.
Let's just, yeah, we're going to keep separate votes on that. So yeah, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if we could just keep them separate, please.
Okay, so we're voting on 6.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
I did, and I think he's second.
You actually
Okay.
did the wrong one, Gary.
Go ahead. Vote.
It's fine. He said this first. That was the problem. But it's fixed.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So City Council has, by previous resolution, formed and levied annual assessments for the Drainage Assessment District Number 1. This would be zones 1 through 17. The annual engineer's report for the district has been prepared, setting forth the cost of the improvements related to the maintenance, operation, and services of the district. The attached resolution would declare the intent of the City Council to levy and collect assessments to pay for the maintenance, operation, and services of improvements and facilities within the district, and additionally would approve the annual engineer's report. The levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 24-25 is estimated to generate $225,165.30 for Drainage Assessment District Number 1, Zones 1 through 17. Staff recommends that we adopt the resolution declaring the intention to levy and collect for the assessment of Drainage Assessment District Number 1, and to adopt a resolution for the approval of the annual engineer's report regarding the proposed levy and collection of the assessments for Drainage Assessment District Number 1, Zones 1 through 17.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? Any questions from the council?
You want to go ahead?
I'll move.
All right, second.
Vote.
And I believe I made the motion wrong last time, but I meant
This
to
is
be the...
District 1, correct?
Motion passes unanimously.
We'll ask the mayor to return and Councilmember Betts. Thank you.
We'll move to item 8, budget adjustments for the 24-25 fiscal year, GAN appropriations limit for fiscal year 24-25 and salary schedule for fiscal year 24-25. Mr. Buckheim.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and council members. These are the budget adjustments for fiscal year 24-25, which was adopted in June 20 as part of the 2-year budget in June 2023. Budget adjustments, the reason for budget adjustments, we have the cumulative impact of takeaways by the state, the local decline in the cannabis revenue, and increased costs to maintain basic services require budget adjustments. So for these budget adjustments, staff has utilized one-time revenues and significant cuts in expenditures to address these needs and to ensure proper maintenance of essential core city services like emergency response, roads, police, and addressing homelessness, as well as clean, safe, well-lit city streets and park. The approach of one-time revenues and large cuts and deferring expenditures cannot be utilized for long-term, and additional local funding or service reductions will be necessary to maintain the current level of service long-term and to address homelessness. For the consolidated general fund, some of the more significant revenue adjustments that we were able to increase property taxes by about $350,000, which includes mostly from the triple flip VLF and the tax increment residuals. That is an actually large one because we have the payoff of the former RDA 2008 bonds that occurred last September. So the funds for the tax increment that would go to pay for that and goes into the trust fund will now be coming back to the city and other taxing agencies. We've also have an increase in transit occupancy tax by $300,000. So as long as tourism remains strong in the city, that should be an ongoing revenue. We have a one-time increase of $415,000 for building permits. These are the permit fees for the Amazon warehouse. And we also have a one-time increase for reimbursements in the amount of $200,000. This is the amount we expect to receive from FENA from our storm cleanup costs last August. We have a large revenue reduction in the cannabis tax revenues of 2.1 million, and this reflects what is actually being paid or collected by the city in the cannabis taxes. To a little bit to offset that is the new cannabis facility annual renewal fee, which will bring an additional $305,000. On the expense side, the city has eliminated or frozen 15 full-time and part-time positions. However, we also added a 2.5% cost of living increase for all the remaining positions. This is the first time we've actually had across-the-board cost of living increase since 2019. The Desert Valley Disposal has agreed to fund the debris abatement program for 1 year at a cost, which would be a cost savings of $200,000 to the city. Other costs are elimination of the code contract officers at a cost of about $450,000. We reduced contract costs with the city attorney, as well as reduce expenditures on supplies. However, we do have some expenditure increases, such as our insurance premiums are expected to increase by about $300,000. This budget also includes funding for the Hub Homeless Center, but only around $500,000. We would need an additional $1 million for full funding. We have increased building and property maintenance due to aging city buildings, and there's increased expenditures in animal control due to the acquisition of the Indian Canyon facility. As you can see, these are the expenditure adjustments from the adopted budget to the proposed budget by department. Most departments, you see most departments you see a decrease in costs. It also points, as I'd like to point out, the senior center is now in its own department, as we are now is no longer a contract. We also have, and then there is a large savings in public safety. Part of that has to do with a POA agreeing to do a 2.5% increase rather than a 5% increase for their contract next year. As for the fund balance for the consolidated general fund, we are expecting our beginning fund balance for fiscal year 24-25 to be over $7.6 million. Our proposed budgeted revenue would be $33.4 million. Proposed budget expenditures also $33.4 million, with an estimated ending fund balance of about $7,659,000. So only a very slight increase in we are expecting in our fund balance for the next fiscal year. I'd like to point out, the Hub Homeless Center will need an additional $1 million funding to operate for the entire fiscal year. The funding in there right now will not carry us for the entire year. So if the costs for that program are not reduced, or we cannot find any other funding sources, we would probably need to take it from fund balance, which would then reduce the estimated ending fund balance to probably around $6.6 million. Restricted funds, changes in the restricted funds, these are funds that do not affect the general fund. There are some that are funded by the general fund. Most of these here, they are increases for next fiscal year, are capital improvement projects that were carried over from the current year to the next year, because either they were not started or not finished, or they're not completed yet for this fiscal year. There is an increase for the Health and Wellness Fund for our increased recreation programs we have there. And then we also have there's a slight increase for the Cabot's Museum, as well as a $114,000 increase for the citywide landscaping and lighting and landscaping fund. So that's the end of my staff report. Staff begins the approval of resolution for the adopting the fiscal year 24-25 budget resolutions, the fiscal year 24-25 salary schedule, and the fiscal year 24-25 appropriations limit.
Thank you very much. We'll take public comments at this point. Anybody would like to speak on this item? We'll close public comments and we'll go to council member comments. We've got nobody in the queue who would like to speak. Mr. Betts, I guess you're trying to put yourself in the queue there. Go ahead.
So I don't know where to start on this one. Let me try and start with a couple of questions. So we're using one-time revenue to support this budget. What is the amount of one-time revenue we're using to support the budget? Do you have a grand total on that?
Well, as it relates to the reserves, that one time?
No, you've got one-time revenue coming in from FEMA.
Yeah.
You got What was the other one there? You had one-time
So there's
revenue coming
about
in from...
415,000 in building permit fees extra that we'd expect to receive because of the Amazon warehouse. That'd be one-time revenue, and then 200,000 from the FEMA reimbursement for storm cleanup.
Okay.
So a total about 615,000 in one-time revenue.
Okay, so 615,000, and then we're pulling something from cannabis reserves to balance this budget?
That $1 million that we talked about last meeting, yes.
Okay, so there's $1 million, so that's 1,615,000.
And let me, be clear on that. That 1 million consists of 750 of reserves, and 250,000 of housing reserves. So 750 out of that 7.6.
Okay, but it's all going into operational expenses for the coming year. So we've got here on the first page, I'm looking at a surplus deficit of 36,698 as a surplus. And somebody reading this might think that we have a balanced budget. But we have a balanced budget because we pulled from savings and because of one-time money, right? What was the fund balance in June of 2022? Do you have that number?
The fund balance at June 30th, 2022 was over 13 million.
It's 13 million. And what is it? What was it in June 2023?
At June 2023 is 9,046,000.
So 9.4 million?
No, 9,904.
Okay, so 9 million.
Yes.
Roughly. And then in June 2024, which is today, what's our fund balance?
We do have, I don't know the fund balance yet. I don't know the fund balance what it is, but we are, after the mid-year budget adjustments for this fiscal year, we are expecting it to be 1.5 million less, which would be that 7.6 million that I showed on the previous slide.
Okay, so in 1, 2, 3 years, we went from $13 million in savings, to put it in simple terms, down to 7.6 million in savings. And I don't see that we're doing what we need to in this budget to correct that. I don't think next year the picture's going to be any different. You've lost some one-time monies. Is there going to be more one-time monies coming along that's going to, keep the show afloat?
Yeah, so as we stated in the beginning of the presentation, there needs to be future fixes. So it's not, there's some structural imbalances there that either additional revenues and or additional expenditure cuts are going to be needed. So that was stated in the beginning.
Okay, and I appreciate, the work you're doing on this. I appreciate your financial acumen. I know that's why you were brought to the city, and I trust you in that. It's the council's duty, and it's our number one job as council members, is to watch the budget, set the budget, and guide stuff. And if we want to spend too much up here and you're the city manager and got to figure out how to make it work, well, that's what we got. I'm really, and I'll say it again, you're calling this, we're calling this, I'm going to use the word we, are calling this a 2-year budget, and this is a mid-year budget adjustment. And so that seems to justify a budget that was released to me and the public on Friday, Thursday evening, for all intents and purposes. And I don't think the public's probably even aware that it was out. And then they're saying, well, that the premise is, well, you had a huge budget discussion in the prior year. But we never did have that huge prior discussion. We never did have that budget discussion, a significant budget discussion in the prior year, because it went the same way as this one. Released on 3 days' notice, there you go, vote on it, no input. It takes your time to get your head around what's here. And I haven't had enough time to do that. I'm looking at it, I see things here. Unfortunately in my life, I've had to go in and clean up a few budget messes, and you put the pieces together and get your head around it, and you very intensely get into the budget, and then you put it on a shelf and let it sit for a while. And even if you're if you're a CPA or somebody who's really adept at working on budgets, you still need some time to get your head back around it and understand it and figure out where you're going. And it's a tool to guide us where we're going. And there hasn't been time in 3 days. I appreciate the time you made available to me on the phone today. We had a whole bunch of other discussions that we had to cover. So we didn't really have any discussions even with staff, myself. Let me ask you this question. When's the deadline for adopting this budget?
We need a budget by the beginning of the fiscal year, which is July 1st.
Okay, and do we have another meeting between now and July 1st?
One meeting in, because we're at the end of May, right? Yeah, so we have a June meeting.
So we have another June meeting? So I would think, since there's no urgency here, we got plenty of time, and to give the public the opportunity to look this over, see what they see here, give council members more time to digest this, and to see, where things play out, or what, I would have liked to see workshops. At some point in time in this 2-year process, we'll have gone 2 years without a single budget workshop. Other cities routinely do workshops, budget workshops. I don't think there's another city anywhere in this valley, anybody I've talked to, another city council member in another city, that does their budgeting this way. I'm sounding like a broken record. I know the rest of my council members have heard this before. But we've obviously got some issues that we have to deal with, and we've got to figure out what our plans going forward are. And I think the public, even on our spending choices, they need to be able to weigh in. We've made a decision that we're going to spend, what are we at, 1.5 plus 692 plus 575, I don't know how my math is for the hub, but we've dedicated $2.5 million resources to a homeless shelter without any consideration of any other ways to do that, and to the detriment of other initiatives in the city, things that people might want to see otherwise, which the public might want to step up the podium and say, this is what we'd like to see. We have our police public safety was having to take a cut, and what they anticipated was a planned increase, and now they're having to scale that back. And there's a whole lot of reasons here that you need to take the time to look at this. I'm sure the argument will be, well, this is just a 2-year budget adjustment, and to keep from repeating myself for going on too long, we got a problem. And the most glaring one is from 13 million down to 7.5 million in 3 years, and at that rate, we're going to be broke soon. We need to figure this out. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Mr. Gardner.
Just a couple of quick observations. This is not an easy process, and staff has done a good job with this. There are some concerns for our long term, and we've got to figure that out. And that's going to take a lot of hard work on this council's part. There were a couple of red flags in here that caused me some concern and have for a while, such as the LMD, citywide LMD deficit. And, the police, bless their hearts, volunteered to reduce their raise. So they came to us and said, look, we know the city's having a little bit of a cutback, so we're willing to give back some of ours, and God bless them for doing that. But I think we're sticking with our priorities. Our wants are always going to exceed our ability to fund them, and our residents have told us their priorities, and I think this keeps well within that. So I'm in favor of making these changes.
Ms. Pye, Ms. Nunez, anything?
One of the things that we did with respect to marijuana was 25% reserve. Didn't want to do that. There were council members that didn't want to do that. And we were close to election time, and so I said, let's wait till the next election. We have 25% in reserve. That was thinking forward. With the police department, we approved that I didn't approve things that we shouldn't have in going forward. But as you said, the police decided they did better than what we did. The survey says that people want us to attack homelessness. If we do not, why did we approve the Parks Master Plan. Yes, there are things that we have to do, but that's why we have a grant writer. And he's working on other things that will help that. We can't stop. Well, I'll do it like this. If you need more time, Councilmember Betts, then you can have more time. I'm comfortable with what you have brought to the table.
And my comments are this: it's not an easy situation when we sit up here, and sometimes the comments might seem pointed at council members not giving the same consideration to the process, but some of us have a different process. Some of us like a longer process. Mr. Betts and I have sat on the city council for 17 years, and he has his own way of functioning when it comes to understanding the numbers and how he would like to see the budget. I don't see it that way. We just have a difference of opinion. The city manager, I don't think there's been one conversation we haven't had with this city manager, the deputy city manager who was the interim city manager, and the last two city managers, at least once a month, if not more, on the budgeting issues, whether they were positive or negative. Sometimes we were good conversation, meaning there'd be one-time monies coming in. Other times there's conversations which were very painful, which led up to last meeting's decision on possibly having to spend $1 million to continue to fund our hub, which is the homeless program. The reason I think the majority of the council decided to fund that was because it is one of the #1 surveyed issues in our community. And so our job is to be watchdogs for our community and to oversee that. The argument can be made that you're spending too much. The argument could be made that you should have 1 to 1.5 times your budget in the bank so that you're safe for a major disaster. We don't have those luxuries because we don't have enough sales tax. Our tourism tax is pretty strong and getting stronger each year, and we got to continue to focus on that. But there's a myriad of things that we got to continue to do, and that's why we brought in the city manager with his background in hopes that we can really strengthen this stuff. We have great department heads that are doing the best they can with what they have, but we're going to have to get very serious next year when it comes to starting our new 2-year budget cycle, whomever is sitting on the city council. Because those next 2 cycles will be very, very important on how you see the funding in the future of Desert Hot Springs. This isn't something we can sustain, but it is a very serious situation right now if you drive through our city. It's taxing our public safety. It's taxing our code enforcement department. It's taxing our fire, our police. I guess that's all under public safety. It's taxing all our staff, let alone our citizens, every time they drive through our community. It taxes us as council members because when people drive through our community and they want to develop, they see images we don't want on our city streets. So putting these services together, I didn't think it was an option. I think it's a mandate that we have to go forward and find a way to fund this. So I get it. It's a difference of opinion. I understand where we're at this point. We're not in a great place when it comes to our reserves, but staff has made sacrifices. We're putting together some planning, and I trust that we're going to get there. If we just vote no and say the sky is falling all the time, we probably get nowhere. So I'm willing to take this risk at this point. I think it's a calculated risk that we know in the future what we are looking at, and we still have a small cushion. And so when it comes to our budgeting cycle, I have no problem with the adjustments being made this way. I was able to comprehend it, understand it, and it's no different than what I see in the corporate world right now for the most part. So I'm going to support it. And the city manager and I have had many conversations I believe he's had with all of us. I don't want the public thinking that we're sitting here with our hands in our pockets, not listening. We have constant contact with our city manager and our staff members on these issues all the time, and we're talking through them. All right.
I'll make a motion then that we adopt the mid-year budget changes as presented by staff.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further comments?
Mr. Mayor, move to adopt the budget, but to continue final ratification until the next council meeting for a final vote, and that the item be continued.
So you're superseding the current motion on the table by making your own motion. Is there a second to that? That motion dies. We'll go back to the original motion. No further comments, please
I want to
vote.
make additional comment, and this is on behalf of the public. They have a right to better than what they are getting here. They've had less than 3 days to review this document. It's got significant spending, significant drawdown in reserves. There is no good reason not to continue this for another, till the next council meeting, so the public has time to weigh in, review it. That's what I heard in my phone calls today. I didn't know this was on there. It's the last I'll say. This is a very, very bad decision to go ahead without providing the public additional time to review this. That's our charge.
Your opinion is noted. Please vote.
Motion passes with Councilmember Betts opposed.
Ma'am, if you're going to use electronics, those are considered outbursts, so we will ask you to leave if you continue to do that. Thank you. With that said, oh no, we're not done. We got a couple other items. Sorry. Christina's been waiting for this one. This is one where we got out of control earlier with our comments. Item number 9, ordinance amending mobile food facilities, street vendors, and peddler regulations. Ms. Newsom.
Yeah, so in May of 2021, the City of Desert Hot Springs adopted an ordinance regulating sidewalk vendors per SB 946. SB 946 established a legal framework for sidewalk vending. However, it did not address or alter how retail food sales are treated. Existing law allows for time, place, and manner regulations based on objective health, safety, and welfare concerns. Section 5.28.085 of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code provides regulations for sidewalk vendors, including but not limited to hours of operation, permissible locations, and several safety regulations related to street vendors to ensure public health, safety, and welfare. In February of 2022, SB 972 modernized the California Retail Code to include sidewalk food vendors and bring thousands of entrepreneurs into a more equitable and well-regulated food economy while assuring health and food safety regulation. In communities all around California, street vendors play a vital role in the local economy and culture. However, many of the state's most well-known and iconic street foods continue to be prohibited because of antiquated and discriminatory laws. SB 972 reforms the California Retail Food Code by breaking down the barriers to obtaining a local health permit, which supports food vendors, spurs economic opportunities for low-income entrepreneurs, and improves food safety and public health for consumers. Specifically, SB 972 defines compact mobile food facilities, otherwise known as CMFOs, to incorporate sidewalk vendors into the California Retail Code and make small changes to the micro-enterprise home kitchen operation and the cottage food operation laws to allow sidewalk vendors to access these existing programs. Furthermore, SB 972 removes unnecessary and expensive equipment requirements such as sinks for sidewalk vendors, enhances safe on-site food preparation and non-potentially hazardous foods, including healthy foods like sliced fruit and vegetables. The proposed ordinance will comply with state regulations and requirements and align our mobile food facility and sidewalk vendor regulations with Riverside County environmental health. Our ultimate goal with this ordinance is to support the local food vending community and streamline all permitting and administrative processes. The proposed regulations provide more opportunities for food trucks and sidewalk vendors by widening the permitted vending areas and allowing CMFOs to vend in residential areas, and eliminating the requirement for a temporary use permit for food trucks to vend from private property. Further, we have prohibited temporary food facilities, otherwise known as pop-ups, at anywhere other than a community or a special event. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I think we asked a lot of questions earlier. Hopefully you got answered. Take any comments from the public at this point. See nobody coming forth. Is there any additional questions that weren't answered earlier? You have a bunch? Okay.
So, question. What are the names of all the food vendor types that are covered by this? We have different categories. Can you just give us those categories?
Yes, so essentially, let me pull these up because I don't want to get them wrong, and let me simplify exactly what we did. Because SB 972 essentially allows for sidewalk vendors to now be food vendors because it's possible for them to get county health permits. These are things like push carts. So Push carts typically sell things like hot dogs, fruit, things that could be limited preparation or prepackaged foods. And so to comply with that, what we've done, and also to promote a more streamlined, understandable process for our food vendors, we have aligned those categories that you are referring to with the county. So they are 1 through 5. 1 and 2 are the most low risk, and those are your carts. Those are now going to be regulated under the sidewalk vending code. Categories 3, 4, and 5 are your food trucks, your trailers, your ice cream
Way
trucks.
ahead of me.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out which the names of the categories are.
So the categories are defined under the county code. The first and second categories are cart and trailers. They're considered low risk. Those are the names of the categories. Do you want me to continue?
Cart and trailers.
Correct.
Okay. I'm looking at words in our code like mobile food, and temporary food facilities.
So
and sidewalk vendors. That's the names I'm looking for.
Okay, so a mobile food facility is what used to be a mobile food vending vehicle in our code. We then further define what a mobile food facility is by aligning with county's definition for categories 3, 4, and 5, which are food trucks, ice cream trucks, anything with a motorized conveyance.
All right.
And so then to take that further, because the county has and the state has allowed for push carts, which are by nature roaming, which are by nature on the sidewalk, to be categories 1 and 2, we further define those in the sidewalk vendor ordinance, that amendment, to allow for those to be sidewalk vendors.
Okay, so let's try it this way. And I appreciate that. I read through this, and as I'm reading through this, I go, oh my God, the work you're doing here on this is just incredible, okay? You've got a real knack for this. This is very difficult stuff to do. So don't misinterpret anything I'm saying here. I'm just trying to get clear in my mind. So let's just start with the people who are selling fruit.
Mm-hmm.
What classification do they come under? The ones that have a little box of the fruit and whatever they're selling?
So anything with a non-motorized conveyance is going to be considered a compact mobile food operator. In our definition, a compact mobile food operator is a sidewalk vendor.
Okay, and so that comes under sidewalk vendor in this staff report, and there's a whole bunch of rules there for them.
Correct.
And you thought about just about everything. Are they allowed to tie their canopies to a stop sign?
So because the compact mobile food operator is a new type of sidewalk vendor, we've created 2 separate sets of regulation. One is for stationary, the other is for roaming, which would cover the CMFOs. All of the existing regulations for sidewalk vendors still apply to those that are now roaming, and we have just enhanced those regulations. So to answer your question, they cannot be affixed to anything, not a bus stop.
They're putting I think that's what the council was getting at earlier, is they're putting signs on, using our stop signs, street signs to mount their advertising, buy your stuff here or whatever, impeding traffic, right at busy street corners where cars are pulling over and they're having to go out into other lanes to get around them. Sidewalks are being to the point where if anybody tried to go by there in a wheelchair, they couldn't without everybody moving a whole bunch of stuff out of the way. That's all addressed here?
It is.
So where do we get to the point where, and that's been the code already, right?
Yeah, so the most of the vendors that you are referring to are unpermitted. Most all of our permitted sidewalk vendors are following the code. They understand the permissible locations, the prohibited locations, what the regulations are, because we go over those. So the next phase of this will be educational based. We're going to do a workshop with all vendors. We're actually going to go and reach out to the unpermitted vendors and ask that they attend this. We've created 2 sets of brochures, both in Spanish and English. We've created paper applications, both in Spanish and English. We've created a set of maps that show all the permissible materials in the city for both types of vendors, so that we can do an educational campaign, and after that, it'll be enforcement for anybody that's violating the regulations.
Okay, anybody that's watching social media at all and they see the county is in there to cite trying to shut somebody down because they're there illegally trying to protect, health, says, oh, leave them alone, leave them alone. And we're not sitting here as a city saying, we're going to go in state law or that we don't want these. We don't have that option anymore. State law says we have to allow them, but we have the discretion to make sure that they aren't impeding the sidewalk, they aren't causing a hazard. But the state has actually relaxed hand washing stations. They don't need those, right?
So it depends. If they're doing limited food preparation or no food preparation, not necessarily, but for a fruit vendor, absolutely.
We
they
have
would
some pretty
need-
well-established food prep businesses cooking on site. Very popular, well-lit, advertising signs, you see them everywhere. Carving the beef and everything else.
Those are unpermitted.
Okay, and so, all right. The concern here is the brick and mortar businesses. They pay tax, they pay their building permits, they have all kinds of rules. They end up with a letter grade A, B, or C. They're hoping they have A. They're hoping they don't get shut down because they didn't follow some rule, and then all this other stuff's going on unpermitted. And they must be sitting there looking, going, well, why am I following all these rules when all this other stuff doesn't have to? So where's the enforcement?
So we've been enforcing with the addition of SB 972. We have paused enforcement so that we can codify this appropriately and not be violating state law. But as soon as this is codified, we go right back to enforcement. I met with the manager of the Department of Environmental Health today and discussed our concerns. And he's, more than willing to work in tandem with us, as well as the County of Riverside, for those unpermitted vendors that are on the county side, which is most of what we see. And so, we're going to continue to work together to shut them down. County has the ability to seize food. The city typically does not seize food, so we're going to work and partner with them until people get the message that we don't allow unpermitted food vendors.
Okay, and so I'll end with a suggestion. They need a permit, right?
Correct.
And in any business in town, you're supposed to display that business permit. Is there some way that we can issue a permit so that when the public is driving by, they can see this vendor is required to display a city permit? And now when they drive by, everybody getting used to seeing, they'll see that permit and know that they're permitted. And if they don't have that permit and somebody's going there and shutting them down, the public will know why. Because the conversation always goes on social media, well, they're not permitted. Somebody will jump in and it finally gets settled down. But if the public could use a visual way to know which is permitted and which is not. It seems to me real simple to print out on cardstock a permit that they affix to their booth in a visible manner.
That is an existing regulation. Not every sidewalk vendor has a booth or a cart. So there's a lot of sidewalk vendors that simply sell flowers or plants or cactuses. You see them out on the corner. So there might not be a way for them to prominently display it, but it is a regulation. It's an existing regulation. And if we go by and they don't have it prominently displayed somewhere, we will advise them to.
Okay, and that's the last issue I was going to bring up is the poor florists in this town on Mother's Day are just screaming, and now they've given up. Some of them just said, forget it, I'm no longer a florist. Because so many people on street corners selling flowers that they're out of business. The people who pay tax. Are we collecting taxes on these businesses?
No.
Okay, so, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor, thanks.
Any other comments? Entertain a motion?
I move that we adopt the ordinance amending mobile food facility, street vendor, and peddler regulations.
A second.
Please vote.
I have one comment.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say, Christina, all of these that you had to do was very good. I read them all. I had to read them twice, but I got it. And thank you very much.
Motion passes unanimously. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council amending Title V Business License and Regulations of Chapter 5.28 Sidewalk Vendors and Peddlers and Chapter 5.52 Mobile Food Facilities of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code. The ordinance will return on June 4th for a second reading and adoption.
Thank you very much.
We have a couple items pulled from the consent calendar, I'm assuming because they're awarding service or agreements. This item number 12 was pulled by Mr. Betts, award professional services agreement for design, engineering, construction, observation of the John H. Furby Aquatic Center pool repair renovations and splash pad renovations. Do you need a full report or do you have a specific question?
Well, I want to see what the process is going to be. This is my immediate question on splash pad, pool, waiting. Is some plans going to come back to the council on this that we get to look at and decide and approve, or is this be all end all of our involvement in this?
I don't understand what you're asking. This is a construction contract. Are you asking for services?
Yeah, it's a engineering, for the Furby pool, for the three phases of it, the repair side of it, which is the plastering.
Yeah, but time out. I just want to get it clear what Mr. Betts is asking, because I think he's asking about the services that are going to be provided. Are you asking that to be brought back?
I'm asking for a staff report.
Why do you got to confuse the situation? Just answer the question. It's very simple. Are you asking for a staff report on the construction of this facility, or are you asking the questions you asked at the beginning, which is, are you going to bring back the services?
Okay, it mentions splash pad in the title, and I want to see what is related to a splash pad in this agenda item. What are we talking about?
He wants to know what the renovations are, so please.
Yes, so back in April, City Council approved utilizing CDBG funds for construction. It was about $1.2 million of construction. This staff report and the contract that's actually attached to it is a proposal from this consultant to do the engineering design for the repairs, which is the actual replastering and changing all the areas around the entire coping. Some of the coping is cracked, some of the coping needs to be completely redone, some of the actual areas that are near the pump need to be completely redone. So what this consulting contract is going to do is going to come out here, do the design, do the RFP for the actual construction for those. The second part of that is for the actual splash pad itself as well. Now, the construction for the repairs has to be finished within a certain amount of time because the pool has to be open. So the first repairs are going to take place, then the splash pad design is going to take place right after that. But this is awarding both contracts at the same time since it is the same exact consultant.
So pool plaster and decking aren't too romantic or anything that would be too
Correct.
concerned about it. You
Correct.
pick whatever color you want. You can't be black, I understand, because you can't see somebody bottom the pool. But the splash pad, so that you're going to go out for an RFP for a splash pad on
This
this?
is to design.
This is developing the engineering that will support an RFP, right? No?
This is the award of the design.
Yes.
So the company within the staff report will be tasked with that dollar amount to do the design of those services.
Okay, so splash pad, will that ever come back to the council to see, here's what we're proposing the splash pad look like, or here are three options for splash pads? Or is this just gonna go down the road and someday, hi, we're gonna have a ribbon cutting at the splash pad, and we all see it as council members?
I think it's important for that vetting of that process. So it's going to be a protracted process. You know, the first part is we're going to try to hurry up and get the repairs done. But this is federal funding, so there is going to be a process that we're going to have to go through, because it's CDBG money, federal funding, for the design of the splash pad wading pool. So yes, that will be coming for vetting of that.
Council vetting.
Council vetting.
Thank you.
There's no other questions. Is there any public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I guess I just don't understand what the point of was calling it a splash pad renovation when we don't have a construction or a design for a splash pad. So, and I thought we were still deciding as a community or a city whether we were going to decide on a splash pad or a wading pool, because unfortunately I won't be swimming in that pool when there's no infant and toddler and non-potty trained. There's no option for the community pool. So that's a big problem for me, and I'm sure other people, you know. And so I was just, I don't understand if it, I did read the staff report, and it just talks about the repairs. So I agree with Russell Betts, Councilmember Russell Betts, that it's like we should pay more attention. I understand what the city manager said about, but I also am hearing a lot of hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. Well, let's hurry up. We got to get it open at a certain time. Not if it's not ready to be open, right? Not if we didn't do it right. Not if we didn't cross our T's and dot our I's. Like, I think as a community, we'd rather do things right than half-arsed, excuse my language, and then have to double back, and then everybody's like, oh, well, why does our town, isn't successful for multiple decades? You know what I'm saying? So maybe it is a time for a different, look at this. If there's no mention of splash pad in the staff report, why are we titling it splash pad if there's not going to be come back, if the contractor already gets, this just doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Any other public comments? We're in public comments right now.
Thank you for allowing me, is this on? Thank you for allowing me to make a public comment. I'm Tom Moen, 45-year resident of Desert Hot Springs, and I deal with other organizations, and it all comes down to the point, other people's money. And I've been on boards and commissions, and they're quite free in spending other people's money. Other people's money is something we have to consider. I had an uncle who called it tainted money, because it tain't yours and it tain't mine. I believe we should have careful consideration on any spending of public money. And when it isn't in our own back pocket, which most of us are quite careful with, and I know our council has to be very careful with your own money, because I've looked and you folks are paid a piddly amount by the city. I'm embarrassed how low the pay figures for our council is. It's the lowest in the valley, and you folks do a lot of work. And again, I appreciate the hard work our city council does, but I do think we have to be very careful with other people's money, the taxpayers' money, and what we're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have nobody else in the public. I just want to make some clarifications. There's currently a splash pad, and that's why we're renovating it. So I don't understand what the misunderstanding is here, but there's also a renovation plan being made that the splash pad and there'd be a wading pool, which has been discussed many times. The current funding is coming from CDBG, which is federal funding that trickles through the county to us. So I hope that does clarify. And Tom, we aren't the lowest paid, unfortunately. We don't get the lowest on this one. There is one other city that gets lower than our stipends. So I just want to clarify that I am correct on that. This is a renovation to the current splash pad, but there's also renovation and construction and engineering design for a wading pool that we're talking about. Any other comments? I'm sorry, Mr. Betts, you said you wanted to clarify something?
I just wanted to make sure that there's a wading pool in our future. That's my preference.
Yeah, that hybrid approach, that splash pad wading pool is what staff's approach is.
Because we have a serious problem at that pool, as was pointed out in public comments. It's people with small children don't have a pool right now. The one place they have is a little 6x6 area where you walk in, or 6 by 8 foot area by the steps, and you just see all the kids gathered there. Makes it hard to actually walk in the pool yourself. And the pool immediately goes to 4 foot deep. It's a competition swim pool. It's not a community pool. It was put in as a competition swim pool. And those usually have an extra warm-up pool, which could serve easily as a kiddie pool. So I'm hoping that this motion includes the creation of a splash pad, quote, kiddie pool, wading pool, that's more than a couple inches deep.
Do we need to add that? Isn't that already part of the, isn't that something you're looking into?
Yeah, so we'll bring it back, like a 20% design on it, just so the council can see what we're going forward.
Got it. Thanks. Okay, can someone make a motion so we can move on?
I'll move that we adopt the Board of Professional Services Agreement for Design, Engineering, Construction, Observation of Furby Aquatic Center repairs.
I will second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. If there's no further comments, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
You pulled item number 14, Mr. Betts, First Amendment to Professional Services Agreement with NV5 Inc. for engineering plan check. Mr. Porras?
Currently, the city contracts with MV5 and HR Green to do engineering plan check services. We've been in contract with them for 2 years. We did have a city engineer and an associate engineer position. I have assumed the responsibilities for a city engineer position. We are recruiting for the associate engineer position, whose responsibility was to plan check majority of our engineering plan checks. We still send out some of them. With the recruitment, we now have to fill that void in order to keep up with the demand. So we initially increased from 20,000 to 120,000 because we received one very, very large project, Amazon 100 acres. Just to give you perspective, it's $665 per sheet. So if it's 100 sheets, $66,000. A $20,000 contract would not cover that. So now we have Desert Gateway that just came in that it has exceeded 120. That's also 65 acres. So that's why we're asking to increase from 120 to $180,000 for this fiscal year, meaning till June, just to be able to cover the expenses that are coming in. We are asking to increase to 120 for the next 2 years because we are still recruiting for the associate engineer position in order to keep up with the demand on that. That summarizes what we're doing right now.
And do we have any public comments on this item?
And
Oh,
one,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. One no is when the developer pays, they charge 75%. We keep 25% of the plan check fee. So it's not something that the city is costing any money.
I apologize for
I
interrupting.
brought up a question.
So let me ask, I'm just going to check for public comment real quick, and then I'm going to give you the floor. Neither one of you? All right. Close public comments. It's all yours, Mr. Betts.
So if they send it out for plan check and it comes back with corrections, and then they make the corrections, they send it back for new and different corrections.
We don't do that.
We don't?
No, we oversee that 100%. So we've had 3 plan checks are included. Anything over the 4th and the 5th are paid by an hourly rate.
Or what?
Hourly rate, if it does require a 4th and a 5th. Rarely does it go to 4th and 5th plan check.
Okay, good. Thank you.
If there's no further questions, someone want to make a motion?
I will move First Amendment Personal Services Agreement with VMV and 5.
Second.
Engineering plan check services.
Easy for you to say. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
We've completed the agenda. We do have public comments. Anyone that did not speak at the beginning of the meeting on items non-agendized? Just waiting for you. Didn't you speak at the beginning and non-public? Okay.
I'll close out this evening with a couple comments so we can move on with our evening, right, Mayor? All right.
Ma'am, if you can't use the
Let's-
quorum when you sit there at the dais, then
Sorry.
please don't come up and we'll
I
ask
was
you to leave,
quoting,
okay?
I was quoting
I
you
know
from
your
earlier
sarcasm
this
isn't
evening.
welcome today, okay?
It was serious.
Your sarcasm is not welcome.
Well, anyways, I agree with the Mr. Betts' earlier comments about the financial budget for the next year, and y'all do have a June meeting, so I don't see why it couldn't have been continued.
Ma'am, you've already made comments on that. You
No,
cannot
I
make
didn't.
comments. This is on non-agendized items. That was an agendized item.
Oh, okay, then I guess I'll have to say good evening and apologize for my sarcasm this evening.
Thank you very much. Before we adjourn, I just want to make an announcement in the June meetings. So June 4th will be our next council meeting, June 11th, Planning Commission, and June 13th is Public Safety. The city manager was hired and made it very prominent. He made a comment that he had a planned vacation that was canceled during COVID, and that was the only way he was going to be hired, is if he had that set aside so his wife and him could go on a long trip. So the June 18th meeting will be canceled for now. If we cannot get through everything in June 4th and roll it over to July, I don't know what the meeting is in July, then we will call a special meeting the last week of June. We are adjourned.